The year I turned 29, my 7-year marriage with Jiangjing finally fell apart. On the way to finalize the divorce, I sobbed and screamed at him, "I've been with you since I was 17, and now you cheat on me, Jiangjing, you're despicable," he sneered, "and you're not. You were sharing a bed with a man at 17, my whole body trembled. The next second, the oncoming truck swerved and headed straight for us. When I woke up again, I found myself back in the rental apartment I lived in when I was 17, the same apartment where I dropped out of school to live with Jiangjing. Dust motes drifted in the sunlight, the space was cramped and narrow, filled with a distinctive musty smell. The twin bed was covered with a faded, bare-patterned sheet I'd picked up from a wholesale market. I stood there for a moment, stunned, then reached up to touch my face in the mirror. I had actually gone back to being 17, it's strange. I never thought it was that hard back then. Looking back now, I wonder how I managed to get through all those years. Jiangjing lost both parents as a child and was raised by his grandmother. After she passed, he grew up alone, wild and untamed like a weed, but he was tough and fearless, and he quickly became the notorious school bully in our district. Both my parents are university professors. While our family wasn't exactly wealthy, we lived quite comfortably. My parents had long since mapped out a safe and secure life for me. By all logic, Jiangjing and I should never have crossed paths. That changed one day when, on my way home, I came across him in a fight with a bunch of thugs. I can still picture the young man lying in the snow, frowning, eyes shut tight, gasping for breath. He wore only a black hoodie, with specks of blood staining the ground beneath him. I should have just walked away and pretended I saw nothing. But when I noticed the school uniform trousers under his coat and realized we went to the same school, I couldn't just leave him. After calling 120, I hesitated for a moment, then crouched down beside him and draped my white down jacket over him. "Hey, are you okay?" The pale-skinned boy lifted his eyelids and glanced at me. "Aren't you scared?" I whispered. "I'm from Sanzhong too, we're schoolmates." After a pause, I mustered my courage and said, "Fighting is wrong, you shouldn't fight." He gave a scornful smirk and then twitched his fingers. I thought he would throw my clothes aside, but instead, he quickly closed his eyes and didn't move or speak again. I just crouched there like that, shielding him from the snow until the ambulance arrived, and even fronted the 280 yuan for the emergency transport. The whole thing blew over quickly, just when I had almost forgotten about that day. Jiangjing came looking for me in class, amidst the gasps. He ignored all the teachers and classmates, strode purposefully up to my desk, placed 300 yuan on it, and raised an eyebrow. "Here's your money back from that day." "Oh, and, thank you." After he left, my close friends all came to warn me. "How do you even know Jiangjing? He's a gangster. I heard he works security at nightclubs. My brother says he stabbed people before. You should be careful." Some girls even excitedly came up to me. "You know Jiangjing, he's so hot, can you introduce us?" I was in a daze all the way until school ended, but on my way home, a roaring motorcycle suddenly cut me off and came to a stop. I was startled. The black helmet was removed by a pair of slender hands, revealing the boy's striking phoenix eyes. Jiangjing flashed me a roguish grin. "Hey, goody two-shoes, get on, wanna go have some fun?" A group of his buddies followed behind him, all wearing knowing smirks. "Jingji, this one's way too tame, where's the fun in that?" "Yeah. The vocational school's queen bee is way hotter, that little leather skirt, the way she swings her hips." I was terrified. I didn't dare say a word, just kept my head down, quickly skirted around him, and scurried away. A chorus of mocking laughter erupted from the group behind me. Back then, I couldn't stand Jiangjing. I thought he was just a punk, not my kind of person at all, but he kept pestering me, following me every day after school, insisting on walking me home. Then one time, I was late leaving after my cleaning duty. In a narrow alley, a drunk man started harassing me. Suddenly, Jiangjing appeared and punched the man in the face, saying coldly, "Get lost." I was still shaken. He immediately took off his jacket and wrapped it around me. "Don't be afraid, I'm right here." That night, he walked me all the way home and waited until I looked back from the stairs. Under the streetlight, Jiangjing stood there, watching me, too. The passions of youth arrive more swiftly and intensely than a midsummer downpour. Jiangjing and I fell into a relationship as naturally as could be, and just as naturally, our teacher found out, called it puppy love, and summoned our parents. My parents, who had always doted on me, were furious. They forced me to kneel on the floor and break up with him, then locked me in the house to keep me from going out. But I loved Jiangjing. For the first 17 years of my life, my parents were incredibly strict with me. I still remember one time when I got a 98 on a test. I rushed home, thrilled, waving my paper in the air. What awaited me wasn't praise, but questions about where I'd lost those 2 points, followed by being made to kneel in punishment. All those years, I just followed the script under my parents' immense pressure, playing the part of the so-called good girl. Jiangjing was someone who had never existed in my world. He shattered the shell of my life, yanked me out of it, and showed me a world that was both bizarre and utterly dazzling. He'd skip class with me, teach me how to mix drinks in a midnight bar, laugh at me when I coughed until my face was beet red, and then buy me a hot milk. I didn't know if I was in love with him, or with a world I'd never experienced before. In the end, to be with Jiangjing, I jumped from a second-story window and ran away with him. I still remember how he was waiting for me at the train station. And when he saw me, he pulled me into a tight embrace. The boy's heartbeat thundered in his ears as he asked me, "Feng Nua, are you scared?" I shouted back, "I'm not scared." "Alright, I'll take you with me. Don't worry, I promise I'll treat you well from now on." And true to his word, Jiangjing was very good to me. We had no money and could only afford the cheapest rented room. In the dead of winter, when the cold was bone-chilling, even the mice inside shivered from the frost, Jiangjing would give me the last egg from his instant noodles, then warm my cold feet against his stomach. We were young, and love was enough to sustain us. We truly weren't afraid of hardship. After a few tough years, Jiangjing's talent shone through. He partnered with someone to earn his first pot of gold, then founded a company that was ours. He was clever and incredibly hardworking, toiling away day and night. My heart aches for him, seeing how he studied relentlessly. He went from being completely green and clueless to handling every business deal with ease. His hard work finally paid off, and within a few years, he had built the company into a major success. We moved from a rented apartment into a proper building, then from a spacious flat into a standalone villa nestled on the mountainside. When he proposed, he gave me the grandest wedding. The fireworks display was so magnificent, it lit up half the city. Even after all these years of success, while his friends all took on mistresses, he remained devoted only to me. He lets me check his phone anytime, calls and video chats with me constantly throughout the day, and the moment he's off work, he's by my side, inseparable. Back then, I truly believed we would grow old together. Just like that. That was until I turned 28. When I discovered he was having an affair with a recent graduate intern at his company, we started arguing, then fighting violently, smashing things in the house, replacing them, only to smash them again. I cried, I raged, until in the end, all that was left was numbness. Lovers who once would have died for each other ended up as bitter enemies, hurling the most hurtful words imaginable. I closed my parched eyes, then opened them again. In the photograph on the headboard, 18-year-old Jiangjing had his arm around 17-year-old Feng Nua, both beaming radiantly at the camera. 3. I was sitting there in a daze when the door was pushed open. Jiangjing, at 18, met my gaze, but his eyes held a strange familiarity. After sharing a bed for so many years, a single glance was all it took for us to know we were both back, in the room that was once filled with sweetness. We stood awkward and distant, resentment hanging in the air. "I'm sorry," Jiangjing Xian began. "I spoke out of turn just now. I was just so angry and lost my head. I shouldn't have said that." I looked at him and suddenly felt a strong urge to laugh. Back when we were 17, in this tiny rented room, we'd huddle together for warmth to sleep. He'd tuck my feet between his to warm them, his eyes growing red as he did. "My love, it's my fault. I'm not capable enough. I've made you suffer. Don't worry. I will never let you down. I will love you forever." I truly believed it back then. I just never imagined that forever could be so brief. Yet, a mere 13 years later, he was pointing his finger in my face, shouting, "You're not cheap. You were already sharing a bed with a man at 17. In the small room, we sat on opposite sides, neither of us saying a word. "You," Jiangjing began, but was cut off by a frantic knocking at the door. I went to answer it, and my pupils contracted sharply the moment I saw who was standing there. Outside the door stood my mother, looking utterly worn out. Her once carefully styled curls were now frizzy and disheveled. Her skin, usually made up, was sallow, and her eyes were rimmed with red. She grabbed my arm. "Come on, you're coming with me." I froze, as a flood of memories came rushing back. That's right, in my past life, my mother had done the same thing. Somehow, she had found out where Jiangjing and I lived and traveled a great distance to take me home. I flat out refused to go home with her. insisting that I loved Jiangjing and that I was going to stay with him. My mother slapped me through her tears, crying, "After all these years I've raised you, is this how you repay me? You'd throw your own parents away for some man." What did I say back then? I don't remember. All I remember is my mother's final, disappointed glance before she choked out, "From now on, you're dead to me. It's as if I never had a daughter, and you never had a mother." After that, I never saw my parents again. Years later, after Jiangjing's business took off, we tried to mend things by visiting with gifts, only to have my parents throw everything back out at us. The family bond once severed with my own hands became a permanent ache in my heart. My mother's voice was strained. "Come home with me now, and we'll pretend this never happened. Our family of 3 can live a good life together, otherwise, you can just act as if I never gave birth to you. And you never had me as a mother." She kept talking, but I couldn't make out a single word. I just stared at my mother's face, so familiar, yet so strange, as a stinging blur clouded my vision. How long has it been? How long has it been since I last saw my mother like this? My mother was still talking. I reached out and took her hand, saying softly, "All right, Mom, I'll go back with you. If you don't come back, then all these years I've raised you will have been for nothing." "What?" My mother stopped abruptly, her eyes wide. I said, "I'll go back with you." I left so decisively back then. My mother clearly never expected me to agree so readily now. Jiangjing, who had been sitting to the side, whipped his head around. When my mother saw him, her expression darkened, though she maintained a basic level of politeness. "Xiao Jiang, don't blame me for insisting on keeping you two apart. Just look at where you live. What can you possibly offer Feng Nua? Our Feng Nua has never wanted for anything. Her father and I gave her everything she ever asked for. If it weren't for you, she would never have had to suffer like this in her entire life. She won't be able to stick it out. You'll break up sooner or later anyway. It's better to end it now, so neither of you holds the other back." As she spoke, my mother seemed to shed a great weight. She even left her things behind and started pulling me away. I gave a wry, tight-lipped smile. My mother was right. If it weren't for Jiangjing, I would never have had to suffer like this in my life. But she was also wrong, because in my past life, I was the one who actually held on. The one who couldn't hold on was Jiangjing. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw in the mirror Jiangjing's face turn deathly pale. I'm not sure if it was because of what my mom said, or because I was leaving. All these years together, no matter how hard things got, I never once thought of leaving him. Even the divorce in the end was something he forced on me. He probably never imagined that I would leave, too. I thought about saying something as a goodbye, but after a moment's consideration, I said nothing at all. What is there left to say? Everything that could be said, good or bad, proper or improper, was all said in a past life. I closed the door and left, for my dad never expected me to come back with my mom so obediently. He was about to hit me, but as he raised his hand, his own eyes welled up first. With a long sigh, he lowered it. "It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. Just be good at home from now on. Your mom and I, we won't pressure you anymore." That evening, my mother cooked a feast. It seemed she had a lot to say, but in the end, she just placed a spare rib into my bowl. "You must have had a hard time out there. Eat more." That night, drifting between sleep and wakefulness, I returned to my past life. In the dream, it was still that same office. I pushed the door open and saw Song Yi sitting on Jiangjing's lap. The world spun around me. I stood there frozen, too stunned to even feel anger. What made it even more painful was when the girl looked up, startled. There was a clear resemblance in her eyes and brows to my younger self, that same naive, carefree innocence, untouched by the world. I used to be just like that, but after all these years building the business with Jiangjing, that kind of innocence has long since vanished from my eyes. Jiangjing first apologized out of guilt and promised to make it up to me, but betrayal isn't something you forgive just once. It's something you have to forgive every single time the memory resurfaces. Soon, his remorse ran dry, and what followed was endless fighting. I fired Song Yi, and he turned around and hired her back as his personal assistant. He even bought her a villa and stopped coming home night after night. The love we had built over 13 years was completely eroded, in those countless nights spent crying at the ceiling, in all those vicious, thoughtless words hurled in anger. Who would have thought that a young couple, once so in love, could ever reach a point where they wished each other dead? I woke while it was still dark, the alarm clock on the nightstand casting a faint, ghostly blue glow. 2:53. I got up and walked to the window from which I had once leapt to elope with Jiangjing. Moonlight, clear as water, illuminated the night. As all those past memories resurface, I can't help but wonder, did I truly like Jianjing back then? Or was it the freedom he represented that I liked? Using my feelings for him as an escape from my parents' control, but none of that matters anymore. I was rebellious and foolish in my past life, and I've already paid the price for it. Thank heavens, I was actually given a second chance at life. Meeting Jianjing was an accident to begin with. In this lifetime, I won't stray from the right path again. 5. I went back to school. Fortunately, my previous grades were good, even though I fell behind in some courses over the past 6 months. The impact wasn't too significant, and I was able to return to my original class. My parents simply said I was home recuperating from an illness. There was some occasional gossip, but it quickly died down. I returned to my former, peaceful life. Jianjing hasn't been seen for a long time either. It suddenly occurred to me that around this time in my past life, he fell seriously ill. Jianjing looked to be in great shape, with a well-defined and muscular physique. But his underlying health wasn't actually that strong. He was raised by his grandmother from a young age. After she passed, he had to fend for himself. As just a child, he scraped by on whatever food he could find. Getting enough to eat was a struggle, let alone having a balanced diet. Back then, he was gravely ill, often coughing up blood even. It was only because I stayed by his side, caring for him every step of the way, that he eventually recovered. After that, I kept trying to find ways to take care of his health, cooking different nutritious meals every day. It took several years of this kind of care before I managed to nurse Jianjing back to health. This time, I won't be there. Will he be able to pull through? A bitter feeling settled in my heart, but I forced myself to harden it when I remembered the harsh words he'd said. I gave him my all, but in his eyes, I was just being pathetic. Why bother chasing after someone who doesn't want you? I don't owe him a thing. For the rest of our lives, let's just go our separate ways and wish each other well. Just when I thought Jianjing and I had gone our separate ways for good, he showed up out of the blue a month later. On the way home from school, the friend walking with me suddenly gasped in a hushed voice, "Look at that guy, he's so handsome." Wait, isn't that Jianjing? I heard he took a leave of absence. Is he back now? She poked me playfully with a grin. I heard you two used to date. Is he here for you? I kept a straight face and said, "We never dated, don't spread rumors." My friend scoffed, "Humph. I really thought you dated someone that perfect." Rumor has it the line of girls who like him stretches all the way to the 4th high school. Even their campus belle was supposedly begging to be with him. That's none of my business, I said, walking straight ahead without a sideways glance. I didn't think Jianjing was here for me. Just as I had completely lost all feeling for him, his opinion of me probably wasn't much better. I used to hate him with a passion that made my heart bleed. I cursed him with the vilest words, willing to ruin my own life rather than grant him a divorce. That year, every time we met, it ended in an argument. He was practically living with Song Yi. In the end, I was just exhausted and my heart was completely numb. Even though I was the one who filed for divorce, I could see the relief on his face. He even generously gave me 10% of the company shares as so-called compensation. Why on earth would Jianjing come looking for me? We're probably the last 2 people on earth who want to see each other. To my surprise, Jianjing actually walked straight towards me. Up close, I realized he had lost a lot of weight, his face pale and gaunt, as if he had just recovered from a serious illness. He said to my friend, "Sorry, I need to talk to Feng Nua about something." My friend gave me a knowing wink and a smile. Got it, I'll head off first, see you tomorrow." I frowned. What do you want? Is he trying to stake a claim on our past life business venture? Well, I'm not giving it up to him. I've already decided, right after the college entrance exams, I'm starting my own business. With the experience from my past life, it should be a lot easier this time. To my surprise, Jianjing wasn't here to talk about any of that. He looked down at me. Pausing briefly, "I'm sorry," I said flatly, "I don't accept your apology. Is there anything else? If not, I'm leaving." The harm he caused can't simply be erased with a casual apology, nor do I have the right to forgive him on behalf of my past self. Let's talk. Feng Nua. Jianjing ran a hand through his hair, visibly agitated. "It's really not what you think between me and Song Yi." "Not what I think." I couldn't help but laugh. "What? You're telling me you two just lie under the covers every day, having pure, innocent chats about company strategy? Don't be like this." Honestly, with Song Yi, it was just a fleeting infatuation. I never intended to divorce you. After all these years together, of course I know our marriage is the most important thing. I even told her there's no way I'd leave you. When I finally agreed with you, I was just lashing out in the heat of the moment. That's none of my business anymore, I cut him off. Jiang Jing, from now on, you go your way, and I'll go mine. Don't come looking for me. Jiang Jing's expression shifted, and after a moment, the corner of his mouth suddenly curled into a smirk. Alright, Feng Nua, it's just a breakup. No need to act like I'm going to cling to you. He slipped back into his old, carefree demeanor. In that case, let's part on good terms. I wish you happiness, yes. Because I will never be with you again in this lifetime. Jiang Jing's smile at the corner of his mouth began to falter. I turned and walked away. As I turned the corner, I caught a glimpse out of the corner of my eye. He was still standing there. His expression was hard to make out. 6. With the memories of this life intact, I had a solid foundation. Picking things up again was a bit of a struggle, but not overly difficult. Thankfully, my mom's best friend's son, Qingjing, transferred to my school. He's even better at his studies than I am. We only hung out for a few days before realizing our daily habits and interests were really similar, so we became close quickly. Whenever I got stuck on a problem, I could always ask him for help. To top it off, our families lived close by, so we could even walk home together after school. Qingjing is a really nice guy. He probably gets it from his parents, who are wonderful people too. He's gentle and polite, always walking me right to my doorstep before heading home himself, and he's incredibly patient when explaining problems to me. He's also very good looking. He caught everyone's attention as soon as he transferred here. After every class, there's always a crowd of girls gathered by the back window of the classroom just to get a look at him, but Qingjing only has studying on his mind. Hanging out with him feels really easy and relaxed. Qingjing was on duty today, so I walked home from school by myself. I don't know why, but I kept feeling like someone was following me on the way home. I've had this feeling a lot lately, but whenever I look back, there's never anyone there. I thought I was just being paranoid, but as I was cutting through the darkest alley where the streetlight was out, I suddenly heard footsteps behind me, growing heavier and closer. I was terrified and tried to run, but someone grabbed me roughly. A few drunk, bleary-eyed blonde punks reeking of alcohol were leering at me. Hey sweetheart, tired from studying? How about Big Brother takes you out for some fun? Last time, I was also harassed in this alley, and Jiang Jing saved me, but this time, Jiang Jing isn't here anymore. I forced down my panic and said, my parents are waiting for me up ahead. The thugs just laughed. Even better, we can all go together. He started groping me with his grubby hands, and when I pushed him away, he flew into a rage and raised his hand to slap me. You fucking bitch, you'd rather have it the hard way, huh? I instinctively shut my eyes, but then I heard the whoosh of a punch, followed by a pained grunt as the thug stumbled back. I opened my eyes to see Qingjing standing protectively in front of me, the blonde-haired punk pinned against the wall with his arm twisted behind his back. Seeing their companions fall, the other two thugs lunged forward. Qingjing reacted instantly, sweeping a kick into one man's knee while driving his elbow into the other's gut. Having trained in Sanda, his movements were crisp and efficient. In a few blows, he had all the hoodlums sprawled on the ground, but in the chaos, one of them pulled a knife. Qingjing couldn't dodge in time, and the blade sliced a gash across his forearm. He kicked the attacker away and, in one fluid motion, wrested the dagger from his grasp, knowing they were outmatched. The thugs scrambled to their feet and fled. Qingjing winced slightly. I could see blood already seeping through the fabric on his arm. Shaken and frightened, I was relieved to remember the small first aid kit I always carried in my backpack. I quickly pulled out the iodine and cotton swabs to tend to Qingjing's wound. The wound wasn't deep, but it was long, and it kept bleeding steadily. My fingertips trembled slightly. Thank you so much for today. Weren't you on duty? How did you get here? Qingjing said gently. I was worried it wasn't safe for you to go home alone, so I finished cleaning up quickly and hurried after you. Luckily, I wasn't too late. Does it hurt? I couldn't help but ask, looking at his wound. It doesn't hurt, Qingjing reassured me. Don't be afraid, I'll walk you home in a bit. I was about to speak when I caught a glimpse of the alley entrance out of the corner of my eye. There, Jiang Jing was standing with his back to the light. 7. He walked over step by step. Feng Nua, who is he? I frowned instinctively. What are you doing here? It's none of your business. None of my business. A flicker of wounded disbelief crossed Jiang Jing's face. I've been following you every day to keep you safe, and just because I was a little late today, you say it's none of my business, so it was you following me all this time. Don't you have anything better to do? I lost all patience. Jiang Jing, Just stay away from me, okay? I don't need it at all, unnecessary. Jiang Jing's gaze swept over Qingjing on the floor, a sudden, mocking smile curling his lips. Yeah, of course you don't need me anymore. Impressive, Feng Nua, you haven't been back long, and you're already chasing after someone younger. Have you no shame? Before I could say a word, Qingjing spoke up first. He stood up, shielding me behind him, and met Jiang Jing's eyes levelly. Watch your tone when you speak to Feng Nua, respect. We were fucking together when you were probably still playing in the mud. Jiang Jing suddenly flew into a rage and was about to throw a punch. I quickly grabbed him. Jiang Jing, have you lost your mind? Qingjing also frowned slightly. Feng Nua, how do you even know a punk like this? You really shouldn't hang around with people like him from now on. It'll just worry your parents. Besides, you two are from completely different worlds. Qingjing was a bit of a blunt guy. He said whatever was on his mind, without much regard for others' feelings. Jiang Jing was practically fuming on the spot. I quickly pushed him away and warned, don't come bothering me again. Jiang Jing, we had an agreement. We go our separate ways. If you harass me one more time, I'm calling the police. Jiang Jing swayed slightly on his feet, then pointed at himself and said, Feng Nua, you're protecting him to scare me. He laughed, his expression icy. Feng Nua, impressive. You've already latched onto someone else so quickly. Are you that desperate? Are you that desperate? My mind went blank with a buzz. The argument right before the car crash surged back from memory, and the old hatred suddenly erupted like a flame. I said, slowly and deliberately, you're not pathetic, you just follow me around like a dog. Jiang Jing froze. After a long moment, the corner of his mouth twitched. Feng Nua, you're something else. When it comes to hurting people, you've truly outdone your master. As the night deepened, he turned and staggered away. I helped Qingjing to his feet. Let's go. 8. In the months after I returned, I studied day and night. Not going to university in my past life was one of my biggest regrets. This time, I didn't want to leave that same regret behind. Fortunately, all the hard work paid off. After the college entrance exams, my results were excellent, and Qingjing and I both applied to a university in the capital. It was only natural that we ended up together. Qingjing confessed his feelings after the exams. This time, there was no puppy love, no skipping classes, and no eloping after our parents tried to tear us apart. Our families know each other inside out. We're perfectly matched in social standing, and we just click. I'm so weary from the stormy passions of a past life. All I want now is a stable, comfortable relationship. I also started my own business. The experience from my past life made this venture go much more smoothly. Coupled with my parents' financial backing, I soon had my own company. While not as large-scale as before, it got off to a very successful start, with performance growing steadily. What I never expected, however, was that the company's first major order actually came from Jiang Jing, sitting at my desk. My tone betrayed a hint of impatience. Jiang Jing, what the hell are you trying to do? Unlike in our past life, Jiang Jing actually chose to take the college entrance exams this time around. He was always smart, but in that final year, I don't know how he did it. His grades shot up like a rocket. When I saw him at the start of the new term, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. I thought we had made ourselves perfectly clear. We stay out of each other's way. If you want to settle accounts over the business ventures from our past life, then let's hash it out properly. How many of those deals did I land by drinking myself half to death? That company was always half mine to begin with. Jiang Jing spoke, but what came out was something completely off topic. I have money now. I know. Of course I knew Jiang Jing had money. He was sharp to begin with, even starting from scratch in his last life. He could make a fortune quickly. Let alone now with a lifetime of experience under his belt. His company was established earlier than mine, handled more business, and had long been running smoothly. What I meant to say is, he paused, I have money now. You won't have to suffer if you're with me. The afternoon sun was brilliant, the air utterly still. Suddenly, I understood exactly what Jiang Jing meant. I looked him in the eye and said calmly, Jiang Jing, I never had to suffer in the first place. Yeah. He opened his mouth, then fell silent for a moment before speaking. I know, you were always well off. If you hadn't been with me, you wouldn't have had to endure any of that hardship. I heard you're seeing someone, right? I didn't want to argue with him. I've already cancelled your order. You'll have to find someone else. Why, you're turning down business that's right on your doorstep. I got straight to the point. I don't want to keep going back and forth with you. Jiang Jing, can't we just part on good terms like we agreed? I'm just so tired. In a past life, I might have wanted revenge, to stay entangled with him, but given a second chance, I've come to realize I don't need to waste my life on him. It's not worth it. A clean break. Jianjing suddenly grew agitated. Feng Nua, I admit I was wrong before, but I've realized, isn't the reason fate gave us this second chance so we could make things right? I promise I won't do it again, please, believe me. Just give me one last chance. No way. I shook my head. Don't be ridiculous. Then what were those 13 years for? Jianjing shot to his feet. What was the point of all that time we spent together? I looked him in the eye. Call it my own damn fault. Jianjing was stunned. Get out, I said, standing up. From now on, my company will have no dealings with you. 9. When I heard the news about Jianjing being in a relationship, I wasn't the least bit surprised. Jianjing has always been that kind of person, a playful soul since childhood, effortlessly charming the girls. Even though he toned it down for a while when we were together, he ended up betraying me anyway. Jianjing's relationships are always a spectacle. I heard that to woo that girl. He set off fireworks in the suburbs for 3 hours. The brilliant display lit up the skyline, so dazzling I could see it clearly from my balcony on campus. After they got together, Jianjing was practically showing off their affection every single moment. He enrolled in all of his girlfriend's elective courses, accompanying her to every single class. He went on a wild shopping spree for his girlfriend, buying all sorts of luxury goods, Hermes, Louis Vuitton, Chanel, never hesitating to get the latest seasonal items. The couple would take a walk around campus every day. Jianjing even prepared an off-campus apartment, intending it to be their love nest. I heard all this from my roommates. They don't know about my relationship with Jianjing, and every time they bring it up, their faces are full of envy. That girl isn't even that pretty, she just seems really innocent. How come I can't find a good man like that? I never join in on these discussions. I once caught a distant glimpse of that girl, Guning. It's true, she wasn't as stunning as the campus belle, but her face was full of a naive innocence that was unmistakably like the person I used to be, or perhaps, the Songyi of the past. At this point, I certainly no longer believed Jianjing was just looking for my replacement. The only explanation is that his taste has always been this way. He only likes this type of girl. After the innocence faded from me, he found Songyi to take my place. But did he really love Songyi that much? Not really. Now that she's gone, he's already found a replacement. I didn't mind. In fact, I was even relieved. Well, Jianjing probably won't bother me anymore. But I spoke too soon. When I saw Jianjing and Guning at the club dinner, I thought I was seeing things. I instinctively turned to the club president beside me and asked, "They're not in our club, are they?" The club president laughed and said, "Our newest member, Jianjing, has agreed to donate to our club. Now we're all set for our future activity funds." My vision went dark, and I unconsciously tightened my grip on the cup. Not him again. Why is it always him? Jianjing didn't even glance my way. It seemed he'd joined the club purely out of interest, as he was completely focused on peeling shrimp for Guning. A platinum Birkin 30 in milkshake white was placed behind Guning. Looking a bit embarrassed, she nudged him and said, "I can do it myself." A slight smirk played on Jianjing's lips. "Let me handle it. I don't want you to get your hands dirty. From now on, as long as I'm around, all the messy work is mine to do." The others started whooping and cheering with envy. Oh, when will I ever find a boyfriend this thoughtful? Right, mine is as dumb as a donkey. He's never once peeled shrimp for me. Such a clueless guy. When's the wedding banquet? You absolutely have to invite us when the time comes. My face was expressionless, filled with nothing but weariness. I was utterly sick of this performance I'd been dragged into. Finally, I'd had enough. I simply stood up and said, "I'm going to the restroom." After hiding in the bathroom for a while, I couldn't help but give Qingjing a call. I don't know why, but I suddenly miss him so much right now. "Hello." Qingjing's voice was still gentle. "What's wrong, honey?" I said glumly. "I miss you." He laughed. "I miss you too. Weren't you at a dinner party? Is it over? I'll come pick you up." As he spoke, the soft rustle of someone getting dressed came from the other end. "Okay, is something wrong?" Qingjing asked. "You sound upset." "No, I just wanted to see you sooner. I'm at Jibao Tower on Nanjing Road. Be careful on your way." "Okay, I'll be right there." After hanging up, I felt a bit better. I washed my face and headed out, but I came to an abrupt halt the moment I stepped into the hallway. There in the corridor, Jianjing was leaning against the wall, watching me with a victor's smile on his face. He smirked. "Not hungry anymore." 10. I struggled to keep my composure, something's come up, I have to go. As I passed by him, he suddenly grabbed my arm. Jianjing looked down at me, his face cast in shadow as he blocked the light, his expression a mix of cynicism and mockery. Does it hurt? All of this could have been yours, Fang Nua, but since you didn't want me, I had no choice but to give it to someone else. You're insane. I shoved him. Let go of me. Jiangjing's grip was like a vice, and a strange light shone in his eyes, as if he had glimpsed a sliver of hope. If you come back, all of this will still be yours. Even when we divorced, I never regretted being with Jiangjing in the first place. It's true that I don't love you anymore, but it's also true that I loved you once. But in this moment, looking into his eyes, I suddenly felt my past self wasn't worth it. If I cared about these things, I never would have been with you in the first place. Jianjing was taken aback, then grew somewhat agitated. Then what the hell do you want, Fang Nua? Just tell me what you want. If you want it, I'll pluck the goddamn stars from the sky for you. I was wrong. Okay, let me make it up to you. You're disrespecting both me and her, I said wearily. Jianjing, do you have to hurt the people who love you? Feeling somewhat in the wrong, he snapped irritably. I compensated her. Haven't I spent enough on her already? Not everyone is with you for your money, I said, pulling away from him. Jianjing, you still don't get it. Even now, I turned to leave, but froze. At the end of the corridor, Guning was watching us. The color drained from her face. 11. Guning sent me a friend request while I was having wontons with Qingxing. At the time, I was in the library, struggling with my linear algebra exam prep. I was doing fine in my other subjects, but linear algebra just gave me a hard time. The library's air conditioner hummed softly in the background. I was chewing on the end of my pen, frowning at the textbook in front of me, when Qingxing gently nudged my elbow and passed me a sheet of scratch paper. Above were the problem-solving steps he had just written out, his handwriting neat and elegant, with each step meticulously annotated. Right here, he said, his finger tapping on the crucial step, his voice lowered to a whisper. You missed a negative sign. It suddenly dawned on me. You're so clever. Why are you peeking at my work? I felt a mix of embarrassment and annoyance. I could have figured it out myself. He pulled his hand back. You won't figure it out. You've been staring at it for 30 minutes. I was so annoyed I gave him a good whack. That's just Qingxing for you. A typical, hopelessly blunt guy who's terrible at sweet-talking or comforting people. But there's an upside. He's a man of his word. Whatever he promises, he delivers. What you see is what you get. All the suspicion from my past life had worn me out. Being with Qingxing, I felt a soothing sense of ease, as if I were being healed. Outside the window, the sky gradually darkened. We packed up our things and walked out of the library. The early autumn evening breeze carried a chill. I hunched my shoulders, and Qingxing, quite naturally, took off his scarf and handed it to me. Put this on. Don't catch a cold. The scarf still held the warmth from his body, carrying a clean scent of lemon and sea salt. I couldn't tell if it was cologne or the lingering fragrance of laundry detergent. What would you like to eat? He asked. Something warm, I said after a moment's thought. His eyes crinkled into a smile. I know a little place on the back street. The owner makes the best shrimp wontons herself. The place was indeed tiny, with only 5 or 6 tables, but it was spotlessly clean. The owner recognized Qingxing and greeted him with a beaming smile. Oh, brought your girlfriend this time. She's lovely. You're a lucky man. The usual. Yeah, Qingxing smiled. 2 bowls of shrimp wontons, one without cilantro. A steaming bowl of wontons was placed before me. The broth was clear and light, dotted with seaweed and dried shrimp. I scooped one up, through the delicate wrapper. I could see the pinkish hue of the fresh shrimp inside. I took a bite. It was delicious, just as I'd imagined. You didn't seem happy about yesterday's dinner, did you? He asked suddenly. I could tell something was off from your voice on the phone. I hesitated for a moment. In the end, I didn't mention anything about Jianjing. I simply said, the club has some new members. It's gotten a bit noisy. He didn't press further, just slid the vinegar bottle toward me. Let's skip those kinds of events from now on. You've got enough activity credits anyway. Want to order something else? Their barbecue is pretty good too. I was just about to nod when my phone buzzed with a low hum. It was a WeChat notification, showing a new friend request. I didn't think much of it, assuming it was just someone from the club, but my pupils contracted the moment I clearly saw the name on the request. The application was just a single sentence. Hello Fang Nua, this is Guning. 12. It was clear that Guning added me because of what happened last night. I didn't want any more entanglements with Jianjing, so after some thought, I decided to just pretend I hadn't seen it, but Guning was determined to add me. My phone kept buzzing incessantly, she even switched to a secondary account. I was so fed up with the annoyance that I had no choice but to accept. Guning quickly sent a message. I know who you are, Fang Nua. I also know about your history with Jiangjing, so, I only added you to tell you this. Maybe he still has feelings for you now, but one day, he will love me more than he ever loved you. I suddenly felt utterly drained, and a bitter smile almost touched my lips. From beginning to end, Jiangjing only ever loved herself, she was just like me in a past life. Straining with all her might to get close to the flame, only to end up getting burned to death, I held no hostility towards her, nor could I muster any goodwill. I simply had nothing to say, so I blocked and deleted her. No matter how much you want to avoid someone, being in the same club means you're bound to run into them. The club organized a hiking trip, and Qingjing came along too. Even though he can be a bit clueless at times, he's actually quite thoughtful. Ever since he noticed I was upset at that dinner last time, he joined the club the very next day and has been accompanying me to every event since. At the foot of the mountain, Qingjing and I stood on one side, while Jiangjing and Guning stood on the other. I looked up at the mountain, my feelings a tangled mess. What? You chose this mountain? This is the mountain Jiangjing and I once came to. Back then, we had just eloped, and he brought me to this very mountain. I still remember when Jiangjing and I hung a love lock on the mountain. The club president passed by and said, Jiangjing picked the spot. It's not too far, the view is lovely, so it's a good choice. On the way up the mountain, Qingjing was very considerate, carrying my bag and water the whole time. We chatted and laughed along the way, and my originally somewhat low spirits lifted a bit. Oh, right. There's a spot over there for hanging love locks, the club president pointed not far away. They say it's really effective. Don't you two want to hang one? Qingjing walked over first. He looked at the tree covered in red locks and wooden plaques, then set his down. Aren't you going to hang one? I asked. Qingjing shook his head. I don't believe in that stuff. If I want to be with you and treat you well, I'll just do it. I'll never betray you. I'm confident we can make it work for a lifetime. I don't need that kind of self-reassurance. I was taken aback for a moment. What about you? If you want to hang one, I can join you. I shook my head with a smile. I don't believe in them either. They're never accurate. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Jiangjing's calm expression suddenly shift. Okay, I'll go get some water. Wait here for me. After Qingjing left, I started looking around and quickly found the padlock based on memory. My vision blurred. 17-year-old Fang Nua, holding 18-year-old Jiangjing's hand, pointed excitedly at the stall. This one's the biggest, let's get this one. Okay, young Jiangjing grinned. If you like this one, honey, we'll get it. A lock this big is sure to bless us to be together forever. The wind tousled their hair as the young man shouted down the mountain. I want to be with Fang Nua forever. I felt a little embarrassed at first. There are so many people around. He soon laughed too. Forget it. I cupped my hands like a megaphone. I'll love Jiangjing forever. The past gradually blurred, leaving only the rusted love lock before my eyes. I asked the shopkeeper for a pair of pliers and tried with all my might to cut the love lock, but the lock was surprisingly sturdy. No matter how hard I tried, it wouldn't break. I was locked in a battle of wills with the thing, determined to cut it through. I strained with such force that my face contorted into a grimace. Beside me, Jiangjing turned pale and shifted his weight, as if about to step in and stop me. Wait, before he could finish, a pair of slender hands reached from behind me, took hold of the pliers, and gave a powerful, sudden yank. Snap, the love lock broke with a sound and vanished into the mist-shrouded valley below. Gone for good. Jiangjing's face went deathly pale. I turned around, and Qingjing was standing right behind me. He didn't ask any questions, just said calmly, if you can't cut it, come find me. Whatever you can't sever, I can help you cut through. 13. We were going to camp overnight on the mountain. After the sun set behind the western peaks, the wilderness was plunged into pitch black, punctuated now and then by the eerie, unsettling cries of unknown birds. Guning, sitting to the side, flushed and fidgeted restlessly. She whispered to Jiangjing, I need to use the restroom. Jiangjing seemed distracted and answered absent-mindedly. I'm scared, she said, shaking Jiangjing's arm. Then I'll stay with you. Guning's face flushed. I don't want you to stay with me. Then what do you want? Jiangjing was growing impatient. Guning bit her lower lip. Being a girl myself, I understood her embarrassment. Since we were the only two women there, I stood up. I'll go with you. Guning glanced at me, seemingly surprised that I would accompany her. She hesitated for a moment, probably too desperate to care anymore. Okay, we didn't exchange a single word the whole time. Not until we were finished. It wasn't until we were on our way back that a quiet voice came from behind me. Thank you, you're welcome, I replied curtly, not wanting to engage further. I think you're a good person, and Jiang Jing is a good person too. Why did you two break up? To be honest, I don't dislike Guning. She didn't show any hostility towards me, she just liked Jiang Jing too much, and I've felt that way before. I thought about it for a moment. We're just not compatible. He's a free spirit by nature. He doesn't like to be tied down or to put himself through discomfort. If you wanted to be with me, you would have run away with me, without a second thought. When you didn't want to be with me anymore, you just found someone else, completely disregarding our decade-long relationship. Maybe it wasn't wrong, it just means we weren't right for each other. I've come to realize now, was the love we swore to in our youth ever really that deep? Not necessarily. It was just that feeling of being united against the world that bound us tighter. If our parents hadn't opposed us back then, we might have broken up long ago. Then we went through years of hardship together. When you're poor and have only each other, splitting up isn't really an option. That dramatic us against the world narrative perfectly satisfied Jiang Jing's craving for excitement. So, this false harmony quickly bored Jiang Jing once our lives settled into a mundane routine. He sought out Song Yi, probably just trying to recapture the thrilling emotions of their youth through her. After some thought, I still offered Guning a piece of advice. Jiang Jing only loves himself. Don't get in too deep. Don't make the same mistakes I did. Nua, came Qing Zhang's call from not far away. We must have been out for a while, and he'd come looking for us. Worried, I called back loudly, over here. Soon after, footsteps sounded from within the woods. The faces of Qing Zhang and Jiang Jing appeared before me, one after the other. Jiang Jing, Guning cried out excitedly, trying to rush forward, but she failed to notice the steep slope right beside her. Her foot met empty air, and with a scream, she tumbled down. In the process, she bumped into me, throwing me off balance. Fang Nua. At the critical moment, Qing Zhang and Jiang Jing both rushed towards us, reaching out for me simultaneously. My left and right hands were grabbed at once, and I was yanked to safety. Guning, however, plummeted down. From beneath the thicket came the heavy thud of impact and a pained groan. I was terrified. Jiang Jing, snapping back to reality, immediately scrambled down the gentle slope to the side. Guning was lying on the ground, with numerous bleeding scrapes and cuts visible on her arm and face. Are you okay? Are you hurt badly? I rushed over, with Jiang Jing following close behind me. Guning shook her head, then looked up at Jiang Jing with red-rimmed eyes. I'm sorry. Smack. Jiang Jing turned his head away, Guning's hand trembling slightly. She choked out, Jiang Jing, we're through. Jiang Jing stood rooted to the spot, his expression less one of sorrow and more one of relief. Fine, this is my fault, I agree. Guning was even more heartbroken, tears falling like broken strings of pearls. Jiang Jing, you're such a jerk. No wonder the person you like doesn't like you back. I curse you to spend your whole life watching the one you love be with someone else, and die alone. With that, she struggled to her feet and limped away. Guning came from a well-off family, and her parents doted on her. That very evening, her family arranged for someone to bring her down the mountain. Before leaving, as she lay on the stretcher with eyes swollen and red, I thought she might blame me at least a little. To my surprise, she just said with a stuffy nose, Fang Nua, no wonder you didn't want him. You have better judgment than I do. I could only manage a bitter smile. It's not that my judgment is good. I've just been hurt too deeply before. He's not good enough for you. Don't be with him. Guning seemed to try to force a smile, but couldn't quite manage it, her tears falling first. He's not good enough for me either. Not liking me is his loss, not mine. I'm leaving. Goodbye. 14. 2 years after graduating, my company was already pulling in 9-figure annual profits, achieving financial freedom. Qing Jing inherited the family business, and under his management, the company's performance multiplied several times over. Our relationship was steady, and both families were fully supportive. Soon after, he proposed to me. On the day our wedding date was set, I went to look at wedding dresses and happened to pass through the old town on the way. The old town was slated for demolition. Many people were in high spirits, and on the wall of a half-demolished old building facing me was a huge, painted character for demolish. That was the rented apartment I had once shared with Jiang Jing. My footsteps came to an involuntary halt. A familiar voice sounded in my ear. you have this egg, dear, your husband is perfectly healthy, he doesn't need to eat so much, over a decade has passed, it feels like just yesterday, Feng Nua, someone called my name from behind, I turned around, Jiang Jing, wearing a black trench coat, was standing right behind me. I heard you're getting married, congratulations, he said calmly. Jiang Jing hasn't shown his face around me since what happened on the mountain 2 years ago. I heard he went abroad on an exchange program, got his green card in the U.S., and even moved his company over there. I honestly thought he'd never come back. Maybe time really does heal all wounds. It suddenly hit me. The hatred I thought I'd carry for a lifetime has completely faded away in this moment. I don't love Jiang Jing anymore. I don't hate him either. What brings you back? I realized I could speak to him calmly. Jiang Jing smiled. I heard you're getting married. I came back specifically to give you a red envelope. Seeing that I didn't respond, he said with a sigh, just kidding. There's a project back home. I nodded. In the distance, construction workers were bustling with activity. Jiang Jing and I stood there for a moment in silence. When he suddenly spoke up, Feng Nua, I still don't understand. Why were you so resolute about breaking up with me back then? We've argued countless times before, and you've forgiven me countless times. Why couldn't you give me one more chance that time? Because feelings can be worn down to nothing, I said, looking at the building. Forgiving you doesn't mean it never happened. Every time I forgave you, another layer of my feelings for you was worn away, until finally, there was nothing left. Can't I have just this one last chance? He clenched his fists. I'm truly determined to change. I let out a light laugh. You won't change. That's just who you are. When you were with me, you thought of others. When you're with others, you think of me. In the end, you just enjoy the thrill of wanting what you can't have. That's not true. It doesn't matter anymore. I waved my hand dismissively. Goodbye, Jiang Jing. I wish you happiness in the future. The old building finally came crashing down, sending dust flying in all directions. That damp, gloomy rental room was gone for good. On my way back, I passed by a middle school. It was just after school in the afternoon. And many kids in uniforms were passing by, laughing and horsing around. Song Yi, over here, someone called out. I stopped in my tracks and looked in the direction of the voice. The person who had filled my memories with resentment and pain was now just a young girl, bundled in a loose blue school uniform, her hair in a ponytail, her face radiant with youth. She ran right past me. I stepped aside to let her pass. Thanks, sis, she said, glancing back at me. No problem, I replied. Watching her skip happily towards her friends, I stood there for a moment, watching her figure disappear into the distance. He smiled, then turned and walked away. 15. I woke up at a wedding. Just as Qingjing was about to kiss me, a frantic cry suddenly rang in my ears. Nua Nua, Nua Nua, wake up. Qingjing grew blurrier before my eyes, the grand wedding scene speeding away into the distance. I was frantic, desperately trying to hold on to it all. The next second, my heavy eyelids fluttered open, and my hand was seized in a tight grip. Before me were my mother's eyes, red and swollen from crying. She seemed to want to smile, but couldn't, tears streaming down her face. Nua Nua is awake, doctor. My daughter is awake. My father was also gathered around, his face full of emotion, tears streaming down his cheeks. The doctor came over to examine her, then clicked his tongue in amazement and said, I can't believe you actually managed to wake her up. She'll need to go for some tests later. But if there are no major issues, she should be fine. I spoke in a daze, my voice dry and hoarse. What happened to me? My mother choked back a sob. You and Jiang Jing were on your way to finalize the divorce when you got into a car accident. You've been in a coma for a month. The doctor told your father and me to keep talking to you, saying if you didn't wake up soon, you might never wake up. Thank heavens you did. It was only then I noticed how completely raw and ruined my mother's voice sounded. So, it was all just a dream. In my days, I realized there was no rebirth, no company of mine, and certainly no wedding. Everything was nothing but a dream. After this grand illusion, I'm back. On the day I was discharged, I had already arranged for the paperwork to be done and the company registered. I was ready to start my own business. I had come to accept the reality that it was all just a dream. Of course, how could something like reincarnation possibly exist in this world? The day I was discharged from the hospital, I saw Jiang Jing. I heard he woke up before I did and had been waiting outside my room every day, hoping to see me. My roommate told me he begged my mother in tears to let him see me, saying he knew he was wrong and that he regretted everything. My mother slapped him hard across the face and told him to get lost. My mother happened to be away handling the discharge paperwork. The moment I stepped out, there he was, Jianjing, in the empty corridor. The wind billowed through his hospital gown. He had lost a lot of weight and looked utterly worn out. When Jianjing saw me, he swayed as if to step forward, then stopped in his tracks. "Darling." His eyes welled up the moment he spoke, his voice too choked to continue. I just looked at him calmly. Even if it was all just a dream, I no longer resent Jianjing, love or hate. From now on, he is just an insignificant person to me. I'll sign another copy of the divorce agreement. Let's go and finalize the paperwork tomorrow. I won't get a divorce, Jianjing choked out, his voice thick with emotion. The anguish on his face seemed almost too much for him to bear. Forcing him to slump forward slightly, "Darling, I know I was wrong. It wasn't until I saw you lying in that hospital bed that I realized what truly matters to me. I won't look for anyone else. I won't go out anymore. I'll stay by your side, just you. Let's make this work. Please, please don't leave me. Don't marry someone else." The moment he spoke, I was stunned, asking instinctively, "You had that dream too?" Jianjing's eyes widened. "You too." I suddenly felt like laughing. Fate really does have a cruel sense of humor. Just when I thought rebirth meant a fresh start, it turns out it was all an illusion. But then, why did it have to drag Jianjing into this dream with me? The silver lining is, while life doesn't give you do-overs, you can always cut your losses in time. I looked intently at Jianjing. "Since you had that dream too, you should know I'm not looking back." I extended my hand. "I wish you happiness. Let's part on good terms." Jianjing refused to shake my hand. It was the first time I had ever seen him cry. He never cried during our hardest days in the rental, nor when he was being pushed around while starting his business, and he certainly didn't cry when we got divorced. Yet now he was sobbing like a child who'd been abandoned. "I don't want a clean break, honey. I can't live without you. Please, just give me one more chance, then I'll file for divorce." I didn't argue with him, I just turned and walked away. Step by step, until I reached the door. My parents were waiting for me there. In that moment, I felt a strange sense of relief. I was almost grateful for the accident, as it gave me the chance to mend my relationship with my parents. The painful sobs behind me faded into the distance, and with each step, my resolve grew stronger. As I was heading out, I accidentally bumped into someone. "Sorry." The moment he spoke, my head snapped up. A face that was all too familiar came into view. Xingjing frowned slightly, his expression shifting the instant he saw me. We stared at each other for a few seconds before he abruptly broke the silence. "Have we met before? You look so familiar." Then, with a hint of regret, they added, "Sorry, I don't mean to be hitting on you." I smiled and said, "I was thinking the same thing. Should we exchange WeChat?" The sunlight falls upon us. It's a rare sunny day today. Story 2. The day I received Tsinghua University's admission letter. My cousin knelt before me clutching her stomach, saying she was pregnant with my boyfriend's child and begging me to let them be together. I grinned from ear to ear. I was just worrying about how to break off the engagement with that scumbag. Isn't it great to graduate from a prestigious school, inherit the family fortune, and become a billionaire heiress? Men will only slow down my money-making speed. 1. After dying from overwork, I was reborn. The moment I opened my eyes, I met a pair of pitifully pleading eyes. My cousin Su Ro, dressed in a plain white dress, stood at my doorstep carrying a large suitcase. It was 1 month before the college entrance exam. My older cousin Su Ro, a junior in college, came to my house using the excuse that my place was closer to her school. "Ruru, why didn't you tell your uncle in advance? I would have picked you up." My dad pushed me aside, pulled Su Ro into the house, and then moved her into my room. Rubbing my sore arm where my father had bumped into me, I narrowed my eyes. What did I do in my past life again? The searing memory came back easily. Proud and arrogant, I refused to give up the room and had a huge fight with my father, enduring a hard slap from him. Because of this, my mother had a big argument with my father, making their already fragile relationship even more precarious. Not only that, but Su Ro then started getting flirtatious with my boyfriend Zhang Chuyang in all sorts of ways. Unwilling to let Su Ro take everything from me, I lost focus on my studies, obsessively thinking about how to make Su Ro leave my home and stay away from my boyfriend. As a result, despite always being a top student, I underperformed and could only get into a vocational college based on my college entrance exam scores. After that, my parents divorced, and I ended up living with my father. Su Ro framed me for pushing her down the stairs, and my father kicked me out of the house. Su-ro married Zhang Chuyang, who also comes from a wealthy family, with the dowry of millions given by my father. After graduating from college, I couldn't find a suitable job and ended up working on a factory assembly line, dying from overwork. 2. Reborn. I voluntarily gave up my bedroom and moved into the attic on the 3rd floor. Not because I'm afraid, but because I want to seize the opportunity of the college entrance exam. My past life experiences have taught me that only personal strength truly matters. I live alone on the 3rd floor, enjoying perfect tranquility. I study late into the night every day. I pretended not to notice all the little interactions between Su-ro and Zhang Chuyang. Finally, the college entrance exams ended, and I scored high enough to be courted by both Tsinghua and Peking University. In the end, I chose Tsinghua. It wasn't until I received Tsinghua's admission letter that my anxious heart finally settled. I pushed open the attic window and exhaled a turbid breath. Now, it's time to settle the scores between me, Su-ro, Zhang Chuyang, and my father. 3. As I went downstairs, I happened to see Su-ro nestled in Zhang Chuyang's arms, smiling shyly. Spotting me, Zhang Chuyang abruptly pushed Su-ro away and strode toward me. Hanin, you finally came down. You've been so busy studying lately that you had no time for me. Now you have to make it up to me and keep me company. As he spoke, Zhang Chuyang reached out to grab my hand. I took a step back, creating distance between us. But it seems like you already have someone keeping you company. I meaningfully glanced at Su-ro. After a brief moment of awkwardness, Zhang Chuyang quickly regained his composure and said with forced nonchalance, Hanin, what nonsense are you thinking? The only reason I'm close to Su-ro is because she's your cousin. The merciless words turned Su-ro's face pale, yet I curled my lips in delight. My marriage to Zhang Chuyang was an arranged alliance between wealthy families, a childhood betrothal set from infancy. That's why in my past life, I always treated Zhang Chuyang as my future husband, making it unbearable when Su-ro stole him away. In my previous life at this point in time, due to my relentless interference, Zhang Chuyang and Su-ro had already developed a deep affection for each other, but now, perhaps because I'm no longer acting as the catalyst, Zhang Chuyang is still secretly seeing Su-ro behind my back. While playing along with Zhang Chuyang's act might make Su-ro uncomfortable, it disgusts me even more. How can I quickly break off my engagement with Zhang Chuyang? As I pondered, an idea quickly came to me. I gazed lovingly at Zhang Chuyang. Since I'll have to marry you eventually anyway, why don't we just get married now? 4. Get married? Su-ro was the first to exclaim in shock. What? Cousin doesn't want to. Or perhaps cousin wants to replace me and marry Chuyang. The piercing words made Su-ro's lips tremble, unsure of what to say. Zhang Chuyang's expression also turned somewhat awkward. Clearly, he hadn't had enough of the joy from playing both sides yet, so I added fuel to the fire. Chuyang, I actually got into Tsinghua University. Auntie would be so happy if she knew. You really got into Tsinghua? Zhang Chuyang's eyes lit up. After seeing me nod, his face erupted with joy. Wait here, I'm going home right now to tell my mom. The Zhang family made their fortune in the coal mining business years ago. Though the mining industry declined later, their family wealth remained substantial, and they invested in other ventures. Although their family is wealthy, none of them have achieved academic success. The most educated person in their family is Zhang Chuyang. He, who is 3 years older than me, entered society directly after high school without attending college. As a result, the Zhang family is often criticized behind their backs, being called upstarts who lack sophistication. The more one lacks something, the more they flaunt it. No matter where she goes, Mother Zhang brags about my good grades. Now that I've been admitted to Tsinghua, she surely hopes I can marry into the Zhang family soon. The moment Zhang Chuyang left my house, Su-ro couldn't hold back anymore. Clutching her stomach, she knelt before me. Hanin, I've wronged you. I'm pregnant with Zhang Chuyang's child. I know. After all, the safety helmets used by Zhang Chuyang and Su-ro were the ones I had pre-punctured with a needle. My resounding words abruptly halted Su-ro's sobs. How could you possibly know? With a slight curl of my lips, I said nothing and stepped upstairs. It seems there's a tough battle to fight this afternoon. I need to rest well for a while to conserve my energy. 5. Bang bang bang. I was awakened by violent knocking on the door. Immediately after, my father's irritable voice sounded outside, locking the door inside the house. All you do every day is study and sleep. I might as well have raised a pig. Why don't you learn from your cousin? She gets up early every morning to cook. And, frowning, I walked straight to the door and opened it. seeing my expressionless face. My father's incessant nagging suddenly stopped, his face then twisted in anger. "You damn brat, how dare you look at me with those eyes?" As he spoke, his hand was about to strike me. I quickly descended the stairs, causing him to miss his swing. Downstairs, Father Jean, Mother Jean, and Jean Chuyang were laughing heartily, their smiles widened several times over when they saw me. Su Ro, who was serving tea nearby, had tears in her eyes. It seems the Zhang Chuyang family still doesn't know about Su Ro's pregnancy. TSK. And here I thought Su Ro was so capable, I never thought I'd have to be the one to expose this matter personally. 6. Uncle, Auntie. I walked up to Zhang's mother. Zhang's mother immediately noticed the Tsinghua admission letter in my hand, taking it to examine repeatedly. Then she passed the admission letter to Zhang's father before taking my hand. "Our Hanan is truly outstanding. I absolutely adore you." As soon as my father came downstairs, she couldn't wait to say to him, "In-laws, Chuyang is already in his 20s, and Hanan has come of age. How about we hold the wedding first and register the marriage later? The Zhang family's status is above ours." Hearing Mrs. Zhang's words, my father temporarily set aside his dissatisfaction with me and forced a smile. "Of course, that sounds good, so, when do you think would be the best time to set the date?" Seeing Zhang's parents and my father already starting to discuss the wedding date for me and Zhang Chuyang, I could only find it ridiculous. My mother hasn't returned from work yet, and they're blatantly disregarding her presence. Looking at Su Ro beside me, her eyes were fixed intently on Zhang Chuyang, who would usually melt at Su Ro's smile, now sat upright, completely ignoring her hints. TSK. In the face of interests, their love seems insignificant. How about next month then? Let's have the wedding before Hanan starts school. Sounds good to me, Mr. and Mrs. Zhang immediately agreed with my father. At this moment, I spoke up. "Uncle, Auntie, I also want to marry Chuyang." But, as I spoke, I cast an accusing glance at Su Ro and said pitifully, "But she actually went behind my back to seduce Chuyang and even got pregnant with his child." 7. My words shocked everyone present. "Hanan, are you mistaken? She's your cousin." I wish I were wrong too, but she personally told me this not long ago. At this moment, the eye drops I applied earlier could finally take effect. Tears plopped down. I lowered my head pretending to cry, while stealing glances at Su Ro from the corner of my eye. Among the 3 Su brothers, only my father managed to get into university and married my mother. He leveraged my mother's family influence to establish the Su group, but the real power in the company lies with my mother. My father is just a nominal president. As for my father's brothers and their families, though their lives improved considerably with my father's discreet support, they still couldn't compare to our household. Su Ro has envied me since childhood. I've spelled it out this clearly. If Su Ro still doesn't seize this chance to marry into wealth, I'd actually look down on her. Fortunately, this time, she didn't let me down. Su Ro, under everyone's gaze, knelt before Zhang's parents. "Uncle, Auntie, Chuyang and I truly love each other." Before Zhang's parents could react, Zhang Chuyang couldn't wait to stand up. "I clearly took safety measures. How could you possibly be pregnant?" With that one sentence, the matter was confirmed. "Chuyang, I don't know how this happened. Didn't you say you never liked Suihan? That she was dull and wooden? And that you'd break off the engagement with her to be with me eventually? You also said, 'Shut your mouth.'" In his panic, Zhang Chuyang slapped Su Ro across the face. The next second, Zhang's father kicked Zhang Chuyang in the stomach. "You disgraceful brat, you've shamed our entire Zhang family. Why are you hitting our son?" Mother Zhang protested. "It's clearly that slut Su Ro seducing my boy. If anyone should be beaten, it's her." Mother Zhang grabbed Su Ro by the hair. My father rushed to intervene. In her fury, Mother Zhang even scratched my father, afraid of getting his face scratched. My dad took a step back. Then Su Ro was pinned to the ground and beaten by Zhang's mother. Unable to dodge, Su Ro suddenly clutched her stomach. "The baby, my baby." A streak of crimson flowed from Su Ro's legs onto the floor. 8. Fearing a manslaughter charge, Zhang's mother immediately stopped and dialed 120. Half an hour later, Su Ro was carried onto the ambulance. Zhang's parents, Zhang Chuyang, and my father anxiously followed behind. I sat on the living room sofa, watching the figures heading outside, a cold smirk curling at the corner of my lips. Just at that moment, a gloomy gaze swept over. "It's my dad." He suddenly turned his head, just in time to catch the smile on my face. I instinctively suppressed my smile. Then quickly realized I was no longer the timid and incompetent version of myself from my past life who had been oppressed by him. I raised my head and flashed a bold smile at my father. Seeing my defiant look for the first time, my father's anger flared up as if he was about to come back and settle the score with me. However, the ambulance outside couldn't wait any longer, so he had no choice but to board it and leave. Not long after the ambulance left, my mother returned. She was dressed in a fitted business suit with her hair up, though in her 40s, with fine lines at the corners of her eyes. She still retained her graceful charm. Her hair was slightly disheveled, clearly showing she had rushed back in a hurry. "Hanin, Auntie told me something happened. What's going on?" Her tone was somewhat cold and rigid from being preoccupied with work, yet her eyes were full of concern. Unfortunately, this concern was something I failed to see in my past life. Back then, it never even crossed my mind whether Mom worked so hard for my sake. I just thought she only cared about making money and didn't love me at all. I'd been rebellious since childhood, always going against my mother, even when my mother gave up the Sioux group and divorced my father, with the sole condition of taking me with her. I stubbornly chose to stay with my father because I couldn't bear losing to Sioux Row. In the end, my disappointed mother left with nothing, giving up everything to go abroad. Thinking about it, I felt my nose sting with unshed tears. "Mom," I threw myself into her arms, holding her tightly. "Mom, you're finally back." 9. In my past life, I was rarely close to my mother. Since being reborn, we've become much closer, but compared to ordinary mother-daughter relationships, there's still some distance between us. My mother's body stiffened at first, then she relaxed and patted my back awkwardly. "Hanin, did someone wrong you, MHM?" I nodded and told her what happened today. Zhang Chuyang and Su Ro were secretly together. They even had a child. How outrageous. My mother fumed. "I'm going to confront them right now. The Zhang family and the eldest son's family must give me an explanation today." With that, my mom pulled me out the door. She drove me to the hospital. When we arrived at the hospital, Su'er was lying weakly on the hospital bed. Zhang's parents, Zhang Chuyang, and my dad were all in the ward. The other three looked grim. Only my father fussed over Su Ro with concern. "Ruru, does it hurt? Are you hungry? Tell uncle if you feel unwell." "My baby." Su Ro stroked her belly with tears. My father's tone grew even gentler. "The baby is fine. You just need to rest and recover now. Don't worry about anything else." "Thank you, uncle." Humph. Unable to listen any longer, my mom pushed open the hospital room door and sneered. "You were never this considerate with Hanin. Anyone would think Su Ro isn't your niece but your illegitimate daughter." 10. My mom was practically speaking for me, saying everything I wanted to say. As expected, my dad also got angry. Though incompetent in his career, he always surpassed my mom in temper. "Jing Yunru, what nonsense are you talking about? I've seen this side of my father many times, but this time, I caught a trace of something on his face that I'd never noticed before. Guilt." I glanced at my father, then looked at Su Ro lying on the bed. A bold idea began to form in my mind. "Nonsense, Su Ro even dared to steal Hanin's fiancé. How shameless can she be? And you're still defending her. Do you even care about us, your wife and daughter? Su Ro is still young and doesn't know better. Besides, she's not an outsider, she's my niece." Seeing the two about to erupt into a fierce fight, I quickly grabbed my mom's hand. "Mom." Coming to her senses, my mom took a deep breath, temporarily suppressing her anger toward my dad, and turned to look at Zhang's parents. The previously amused expressions of Zhang's parents immediately tensed up. "In-laws, well, don't call me in-laws. Since your son has no sense of decency, let's just call off this marriage." Before Mr. and Mrs. Zhang could respond, my father hastily stepped forward. "What a waste to call it off. Why not let Ruru marry Chuyang in Ihan's place? That's absolutely not acceptable." Mrs. Zhang's eyes widened instantly. "Hanin got into Tsinghua University, but what about Su Ro? She went to some no-name college and comes from the countryside. Our Zhang family would never accept such a daughter-in-law. In my opinion, Su Ro should just get rid of the baby in her belly and go back to the countryside. Let's pretend this never happened. We can't let some worthless woman ruin the harmony between our two families, right, my dear in-laws?" Mrs. Zhang looked at my mother. My mother glanced at my father's livid face. She patted my hand reassuringly and then said leisurely, "This might actually work." 11. Seeing my mother relent, Mrs. Zhang heaved a huge sigh of relief. "In that case, I'll have the doctor prepare the abortion procedure right away." As she spoke, Mrs. Zhang made to arrange it. "Su Ro, who had been lying weakly in bed struggling to speak, suddenly jumped up and clung to Zhang Chuyang's leg. Chuyang, how could you bear to treat me like this, Wu-Wu, she cried pitifully, her face wet with tears. Zhang Chuyang's face showed signs of inner struggle. Seeing this, Madame Zhang became furious. You shameless wench, don't touch my son. As she spoke, she tried to pull Su-Ro away. At this moment, two figures rushed in. How dare you bully my daughter, I'll fight you to the death. The ones who rushed in were Su-Ro's parents. They had clearly just received the news and hurried over. Seeing Su-Ro being bullied, they immediately pushed Zhang's mother aside and started beating her. Old Zhang also joined the fight. Su-Ro's parents were accustomed to farm work and had great strength, making old Zhang and his wife no match for them. Seeing his parents howling in pain from the beating, Zhang Chuyang also charged in. The six of them tumbled into a tangled mess on the ground. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. The laughter caught my father's attention. He strode toward me angrily. Sui-han, you've gone too far. If it weren't for you, how could things have come to this? Me, what does it have to do with me? Isn't it Su-Ro who's shameless? Shut the hell up, I won't. What, could it be true like my mom said? Su-Ro isn't your niece but your illegitimate daughter. As my words hung in the air, my father's face turned livid with rage. Nonsense. Today I'm going to teach you a proper lesson. With that, my father raised his hand to strike me. My mother instinctively shielded me behind her. How dare you? Why wouldn't I dare? Jing Yunru, if you stand in my way, don't think I won't hit you too. Humph. A cold, mocking young voice came from outside the hospital room. How ridiculous. This is the first time I've seen a father who can't stand to see his own daughter happy. 12. I turned around and saw a face that was both strange and familiar. The youth's features were delicate, with sharp contours and extraordinary handsomeness. The scrapes at the corner of his eye and the blood at his lips didn't mar his good looks, but rather added a touch of bewitching allure. His single eye bore obvious ferocity, brimming with menace. He is my high school classmate Qin Zhou. After graduating from high school, I lost touch with many of my classmates. The reason he seemed familiar was that, before my rebirth, I happened to meet him once. At that time, I was heading home from work as usual when two men stopped me on the street. It was Qin Zhou who appeared in the luxury car. With just a simple honk, the two men were scared off and ran away. I thanked Qin Zhou, to which he replied, no need to thank me, old classmate. Only then did I manage to dredge up the few fragmented memories I had of Qin Zhou from the depths of my mind. While grateful, I also felt deeply embarrassed. My high school classmates are doing really well, while I, withdrawing my wandering thoughts, I look again at the face before me. He's not as composed now as he was before I was reborn, appearing much more youthful, but still handsome. Who do you think you are? Our family matters are none of your business, you little brat. Today I'm going to teach my own daughter a lesson. Mocked by an outsider, my extremely prideful father felt even more humiliated. He rolled up his sleeves and was about to hit me. My mother shielded me in front of her. But his slap didn't stop. He actually intended to hit my mother too. I moved to block my father's slap, but a hand beat me to it, firmly restraining his arm. It was Qin Zhou. My furious father wanted to scold Qin Zhou too, but his hand was held by Qin Zhou and couldn't move at all. The two stood in confrontation, Qin Zhou looking relaxed while my father's face turned the color of liver. Eventually, the medical staff noticed the commotion and rushed into the ward to break up the fight. My father took the opportunity to withdraw his hand and turned to look at Su-Ro. I turned around to thank Qin Zhou, only to find that he had already walked away. At the far end of the long corridor, his figure appeared frail. A sense of loneliness lingered. 13. Half an hour later, with the hospital staff's reassurance, the crowd present barely calmed down, except for my father, who pretended to care about Su-Ro while actually staying aloof. Everyone else had tear-streaked faces, disheveled appearances. Looking utterly wretched, the Zhang family held their chins high. Exuding arrogance, Su-Ro's parents lowered their heads, filled with anxiety. Their greatest dream was to have Su-Ro marry into a wealthy family, yet moments ago, they were beating that very wealthy family to the ground. The child in Su-Ro's belly must be aborted, Father Zhang angrily declared. Mother Zhang chimed in. I'd rather die than let Su-Ro step into our household. That's unacceptable, Father Su protested. Your Zhang Chuyang got our Su-Ro pregnant. If you won't take responsibility, we'll make a scene at your company's entrance and let the public judge who's right. Su's father's words made Zhang's parents turn pale. 200,000, that's a human life. You think you can buy a life for 200,000? You Zhang's father interrupted Su's mother's relentless demands. 500,000, this time. As soon as he finished speaking, Su Daqiang and Lu Meifeng eagerly nodded. Deal. On the hospital bed, Su Ro cried until she fainted. She really fainted. Unfortunately, even after fainting, she couldn't escape her fate of going under the knife. After dealing with Su Daqiang's family, the exhausted Zhang parents turned to my mother-in-laws. Once the baby in Su Ro's belly is gone, let Chu Yang marry Han. What do you say? My mother's eyes flickered. That depends on how your Chu Yang behaves. Don't worry. If Chu Yang ever messes around again, I'll break his legs. Zhang's mother pulled Zhang Chuyang over. Zhang Chuyang absent-mindedly nodded in agreement. His eyes kept darting toward the direction where Su Ro was being pushed away. Without chatting much with Zhang's mother, my mom took me away, in the car. While driving, my mom asked me, "What do you think about the marriage arrangement with Zhang Chuyang?" 14. I wouldn't want that scumbag even if you paid me. The mere thought of Zhang Chuyang fills me with disgust. So repulsive it makes me physically ill. A cheating, cowardly, irresponsible man with not a single redeeming quality. I must have been blind in my past life to compete with Su Ro over a piece of trash. My words eased some of the worry between my mother's brows. So what do you want to do now? I want to break off the engagement with Zhang Chuyang. Dragging things out with Zhang Chuyang for a while might hurt him and Su Ro more deeply, but just the thought of bearing the title of Zhang Chuyang's fiancé makes me sick. Mom, if Su Ro's pregnancy is terminated, wouldn't the Zhang family just keep clinging to me? I shared my concerns with my mother. She gave me a reassuring smile. Don't worry, leave it to Mom. When we got home, my mother first called Zhang's mother-in-laws. Has the child in Su Ro's womb been aborted yet? Not yet. The doctor said they need to wait until she wakes up to check her physical condition before performing the surgery. I think that slut Su Ro is clearly faking her faint. Exactly. What kind of decent person would seduce their own sister's boyfriend? In-laws, you mustn't soften at the critical moment. Chuyang isn't infertile. Once he marries Henin in the future, they can have 8 or 10 children. After ending the call with Zhang's mother, my mom turned to look at me. Before I could even ask, she made her stance clear. Zhang Chuyang is an only child. Back then, his parents went through great efforts to have him. Apparently, his father had some issues in that department, so Zhang's mother might not allow Su Ro on the operating table due to concerns about continuing the family line. My eyes lit up with realization. My mother smiled and tapped my forehead. Clever. This way, the Zhang family won't have the face to pester us anymore. And even if Su Ro manages to bear a child, the Zhangs will still look down on her. Hearing this, I looked at my mother with admiration in my eyes. Mom, you're amazing. My mother smiled and hugged me, gently stroking my head. No one can bully my daughter. 15. Feeling my mother's warm embrace, I couldn't stop my nose from tingling with emotion. My mother had said these same words in my past life. How had I responded back then? I said, if you really don't want me to be bullied, you should help me win Zhang Chuyang back. But Henin, Zhang Chuyang isn't worth it or not. I just like him. I was like a person possessed. My only wish was to separate Su Ro and Zhang Chuyang. Unable to dissuade me, my mother swallowed her pride and went to Zhang's parents, only to be looked down upon by them. Exactly. Even though Zhang Chuyang treated me like this, I still couldn't bring myself to let go. With a daughter like me, no wonder my mother gets looked down upon by others. Henin, what's wrong with you? Sensing my emotional turmoil, my mother asked with concern. Buried in my mother's arms, I muttered, Mom, I think Dad, he doesn't deserve to be my father. It's as if we weren't close enough before. There was always something between my mom and Dad too. Normally my mom was busy with work, while my dad squandered her money showing off everywhere. Looking back now, their relationship had been troubled for a long time, but for my sake, my mom kept enduring life with my dad. But now I see clearly, a father who doesn't care about me is someone I can do without. I wish my mother would file for divorce from my father, but she didn't. She just held me tightly, and after a long while, let out a sigh, although somewhat disappointing. It's understandable, after all, in my previous life, my mother filed for divorce from my father a year later, by which time I had already been mentally broken by Zhang Chuyang, Su Ro, and my father. She was completely disillusioned with my father and wanted to take me away, but now, apart from defending Su Ro, my father doesn't seem to have committed any other unforgivable acts. Although I really want to get rid of my dad soon, I know some things can't be rushed. 16. In the afternoon, my mom went out to prepare for my college celebration banquet. I called all the villa's servants over and ordered, throw out all of Su-Ro's belongings. Yes, I tolerated Su-Ro for a while just for the sake of learning. From now on, I won't give anyone the chance to hurt me again. After all of Su-Ro's belongings were thrown out, the servants cleaned my room, and I moved back from the attic. In the evening, my mom came home first, and right after, my dad returned. When he saw us, his arrogant expression faded, replaced by an awkward look. He walked up to my mom, took her hand and said, "At the hospital earlier, I was just too angry. Please don't be mad at me." Normally, even when he knows he's done something wrong, my dad never apologizes. He must be after something now. My mother withdrew her hand, her expression indifferent. From the looks of it, Su-Ro didn't abort the child in her belly, having his thoughts exposed directly. My father felt somewhat awkward. Zhang Chuyang got tested, low sperm count. It might be hard to have children later, so this is a last resort. So what? My mother stared steadily at my father, faced with my mother's composure. My father's guilt turned to anger. It's Yihan's own fault for not being likable enough to win Zhang Chuyang's affection. Since Ro is already carrying his child, this marriage might as well go to her. My mother also has a tough temper and immediately darkened her face. Su Zhenan, I don't care about this marriage, but what do you mean? What do you mean by saying Henin is unlikable? In your eyes, is your niece Su-Ro the only likable one? Isn't that the case? My father slammed the table and stood up, pointing at me. Look at her face like I owe her millions. Where is she likable? Unlike Ro, who serves me tea, asks about my well-being, and even, 17, shut up. My mother was so angry her chest heaved up and down. Worried my mother might harm her health from anger, I quickly stepped forward to soothe her. Mom, let's not be angry. It's fine if Dad doesn't love me. I still have you. Seeing my worry, my mom took a deep breath, trying hard to suppress her inner anger. Ignoring Su Zhenan, she took my hand and led me upstairs. Upstairs, she looked at me and said, "Your dad She wanted to say something, but the words stuck in her throat and she couldn't get them out. I squeezed my mother's hand back. Mom, in my heart, I don't have a father. From childhood till now, my father never cared for me. Never looked after me, never attended my parent-teacher meetings, never. He wasn't involved in any big or small matters of my life. He didn't even have a shred of affection for me, only disgust. But with Su-Ro, it was different. Only in front of her did he act like a father. Sometimes I even feel, thinking of that suspicion in my heart, I gritted my teeth and continued, that Su-Ro is actually his daughter, and I'm just an obstacle who stole his daughter's position. Henin, startled by my words, my mother exclaimed, "I can assure you, you are your father's child. As for Su-Ro, your father is selfish. He's always wanted to drain me to support his two brothers. Deep down, he believes he and his two brothers are the real family. Treating me as an outsider, he places you in the same position as me, which is why rest assured, Su-Ro is definitely not your father's child. If your father doesn't cherish you, I'll love you twice as much." Hearing this, I nodded and stopped dwelling on the issue, then said, "So my father's idea is to have Su-Ro marry Zhang Chuyang. Did James' parents accept her just because she's pregnant? If that's the case, Su-Ro is getting off too easily." 18, Of course not. I know Mr. and Mrs. Zhang too well. They're probably planning to have Su-Ro secretly give birth, then raise the child as yours and Zhang Chuyang's. They got your father to come back as their mediator. But how could your father bear to let his precious niece suffer such injustice? That's why he came back this time, to have me intervene and persuade James' parents to let Su-Ro marry into the Zhang family. I'm not that foolish. After that argument with your dad just now, he probably won't dare bring it up again. After hearing my mom's words, I couldn't help but give her a thumbs up. "Mom, you're amazing." "Of course," my mom said with a proud smirk. "Your college celebration banquet is scheduled in 3 days. I'll send you the hotel address via WeChat later. Just focus on inviting your classmates these days. Leave everything else to me. On the day of the celebration banquet, I'll publicly announce the cancellation of your engagement with Zhang Chuyang." "Okay, Mom." Back in my room, I still felt somewhat puzzled. My mother's abilities are even more outstanding than I imagined. She's so intelligent that she can confidently assert Su-Ro wasn't born to my father. Could it be that I was truly mistaken about this point? Shaking my head, I temporarily pushed this question to the back of my mind. I took out my phone and sent invitations for the college celebration banquet to several close friends. When reaching the last invitation, I thought of Qin Zhou. He was my classmate, but during high school, I had very few impressions of him. From what I remember, He always sat in the back row of the classroom, either sleeping or playing with his phone during class, and the teachers couldn't be bothered to discipline him. He often got into fights with others and was frequently called to the principal's office with his parents. He was the epitome of a rebellious student. Yet because of his good looks, his desk drawer was always stuffed with love letters. He never even touched those letters, routinely tossing them into the trash. Our interactions were pitifully few, yet across lifetimes, he helped me twice. After wrestling with it for a moment, I still sent Chin-Zhou a message. Since I wasn't very familiar with him, my tone was relatively polite. My college celebration banquet is in 3 days. Would you be available? Unexpectedly, the reply came quickly. Just a simple word, okay. 19. Several close friends, regardless of how well they did in exams, are all having their college celebration banquets these days. That day, as I was neatly dressed and ready to go out, my father sitting on the sofa gave me a once-over, his eyes sharpening. "Ihan, what do you want?" My tone was cold, frowning with displeasure. My father spoke up. "Your cousin is still lying in the hospital recovering. How can you still have the mind to go out and have fun? By your logic, since cousin is still lying sick in bed, how come you have the leisure to drink tea at home? Seems to me you should be by her side in the hospital every single minute." My blunt retort made my father's expression darken. "I stayed up late last night, so I can't keep my eyes open today." Oh, I was in a hurry to leave and couldn't be bothered to waste more words on him. As I reached the door, my father's voice came again. "Remember to find time to visit your cousin." Probably asking me to visit Su-Ro was just an excuse. The real intention was to have her lecture me. As if deaf to his words, I turned and walked away. After attending my friend's college celebration banquet, on the way back, I asked the driver to take a detour to the hospital. When I arrived at the hospital, Su-Ro was sitting on the bed eating fruit fed to her by Su Daqiang and Lu Meifeng. Our Ruru is truly remarkable. It seems she'll marry into wealth sooner or later. What's the use of Su Yihan being book-smart when she can't even keep a man? When you marry Zhang Chuyang, have your uncle give you a bigger dowry. The three of them had their schemes all worked out, their calculations clicking away loudly. I pushed the door open at just the right moment, but Aunt Jean just called me and said Chuyang would never marry Su-Ro. Once Su-Ro gives birth, she'll be sent packing back to the countryside. 20. My words caused the expressions of everyone in the room to change dramatically. "Ihan, things have come to this. Even if you marry Zhang Chuyang, you can only have his body, not his heart." At this moment, the smugness on Lu Meifeng's face completely vanished, replaced by bitter anguish. "Ihan, you've been fortunate since childhood, lacking nothing. Ro is different. Could you please not compete with her for Chuyang?" As Lu Meifeng spoke, Su-Ro was already in tears. "Han Yan, for the sake of me being your elder sister, could you please let me go?" Su Daqiang's attitude remained firm. "Ihan, even if you refuse to break off the engagement with Chuyang, your father will find a way to make Sura marry him instead. If you don't let go now, you'll only be humiliating yourself when the time comes." The three of them worked in perfect coordination, using both carrot and stick. If this were the kind and weak-willed me from my past life, I probably would have blamed myself already. But, what do you mean by let you off? It was Su-Ro who shamelessly seduced my fiancé and got pregnant with his child. I must have been cursed for 8 lifetimes to be involved with people like you. Listen here, Su-Ro, no matter what tricks you pull, I won't cancel my engagement to Zhang Chuyang. Go ahead and have the baby. When the time comes, your child will call me mom, while you'll forever remain in the shadows. At most hearing your child call you auntie. Hearing this, everyone in the room was left speechless with anger. Bang, the meal delivery auntie who just walked in accidentally broke a bowl at that moment. "I'm so sorry, it's my clumsy hands." She flusteredly tried to pick up the broken ceramic pieces from the floor and accidentally cut her hand, unable to watch any longer. I stepped forward. "Let me handle this." I crouched down to help her pick up the broken bowl pieces. After gathering them, I stood up, ready to throw these into the trash bin. As I raised my eyes, my gaze inadvertently fell upon the face of the meal delivery auntie, and I couldn't look away. Similar, she looked so much like Su-Ro. 21. The conjecture I had previously suppressed resurfaced once again. Noticing me staring at her face, the meal delivery aunt quickly lowered her head and said to me, "Thank you, it's nothing." I comfortingly patted her shoulder and casually plucked a strand of hair from her head. Just as I stepped out of the ward door, I saw Zhang Chuyang. His expression was extremely excited. "Henin, that's wonderful. You don't mind Su-ro giving birth to my child and are even willing to be the child's real mother. Don't worry, I'll definitely treat you well from now on." As he spoke, his eyes were filled with deep affection as he looked at me. It seems he overheard what I just said in the hospital room. I almost want to puke. In my past life, how blind must I have been to feel resentful that Su-ro stole such a worthless thing. What about Su-ro then? I deliberately raised my voice. "Just give her some money after she gives birth to the child," Zhang Chuyang said with complete indifference. Indoors, as Zhang Chuyang's words were spoken, another wave of exclamations arose. Su-ro fainted again. As for whether it's real or fake fainting, I don't care. I looked at Zhang Chuyang expressionlessly. What I said earlier was just to deliberately provoke Su-rong. From the moment you hooked up with Su-rong, we no longer have any relationship. Please tell your parents this when you get back, so they won't go around saying I'm your family's future daughter-in-law every day. Being associated with people like you is actually quite embarrassing." After saying this, I ignored Zhang Chuyang's reaction and walked away. 22. The day before the college celebration banquet, my mom and I returned after choosing dresses, discovered Su-ro and her parents at my house. The family of 3 lay on the sofa, munching melon seeds while watching TV. The villa was littered with melon seed shells and spilled tea, utterly chaotic. "What are you doing here?" I stared at them. Su Daqiang leaned further back into the sofa. "What kind of talk is that, Ihan? We're family. Ruru just got out of the hospital and shouldn't be inconvenienced. If she doesn't stay here, where else would she stay?" At that moment, a servant came downstairs carrying some belongings. I took a closer look and realized they were actually my things from my room. Noticing my gaze, Su-ro spoke up with an innocent expression. "Henin, uncle said I need a good environment to recover. So I'm afraid you'll have to stay in the attic or the guest room." Holy cow. They actually took over my room again without notifying me. I was furious. Just as I was about to speak, my mom cut in ahead of me. "Security, throw this family of 3 out. How dare you? Do you know who I am? I'm the elder brother of the master of this villa. If you dare lay a hand on me, I'll have you all fired." Su Daqiang roared furiously. However, the security guards completely ignored them. After all, this villa was part of my maternal grandparents' dowry to my mother. The 3 who were thrown out sat at the entrance of my villa, cursing and grumbling. I said slowly, "Keep shouting and I'll call the police." As I spoke, I took out my phone. When I pressed 110, the 3 immediately fell silent. They got up from the ground and left with their meager belongings. "Su-ro," I called out to her at that moment. "What else do you want?" Su-ro could no longer keep up the act, clutching her stomach. She looked at me with full of wariness and hatred. "Don't you dare touch my child." "Ha," I let out a cold laugh. "Just having a child won't get you into the Zhang family." 23. The Zhangs value their reputation above all. Only by making it known to everyone that you're carrying Zhang Chuyang's child might the Zhangs allow you to enter their household openly. How could you be so kind? Su-ro's expression was deeply moved. She wasn't completely brainless after all. Soon, she figured it out. "Sui-han, you did this on purpose. You want to drag the Zhang family down with you in disgrace." "Yes, I did it on purpose. I've given you the opportunity. Take it or leave it." Not long after the Su Daqiang family left, my father returned. In the living room, he had an unprecedented argument with my mother. Because of me, because of Su-ro. Their quarrel started with Su-ro seducing Zhang Chuyang, then escalated far beyond that. My father felt that over all these years, my mother's financial dominance had constantly undermined his dignity. As for my mom, aside from feeling I'd been wronged, her biggest emotional knot was my dad's years of emotional neglect. Even my usually elegant and composed mother couldn't hold back her emotional breakdown at this moment. "Suzhanan, you're just spineless, utterly useless, and a complete male chauvinist. If you won't protect your own wife and child, you're nothing but a heartless, ungrateful wretch with no eyes to see. Jing Yunru, you're asking for death." My father raised his hand, about to strike my mother. Of course, his slap never landed on my mother. Mid-air, it was intercepted by security. "Beat Suzhanan to death. The harder you hit, the bigger the bonus." 24. Next, the living room was filled with Suzhanan's screams of agony. "I've wanted to do this for a long time. Even if in my past life I only ended up attending a vocational college, it wasn't impossible to make a good life through hard work. It's Suzhanan, Su-ro, and Zhang Chuyang. No matter what job I find, they'll use their power to ruin it for me. In my tragic past life, though I was partly to blame for being blind to the truth, I never did anything truly evil from start to finish, it was these villains who kept pushing me to the edge. The moment I was reborn, I wanted to beat Su Jinnan to death, but when I actually did it, I didn't feel the satisfaction I expected, because of my mom's face was full of hurt. Mom. I stepped forward to hold my mother's hand and called out cautiously, "Mom's fine." My mother forced a faint smile at me. Only when Su Jinnan was beaten into silence did my mother say to the security guards, "Stop." I still felt somewhat unwilling to let Su Jinnan off so easily. My mother patted my hand reassuringly. "Tomorrow is your college celebration banquet. It wouldn't be good if this escalated." With that, I said nothing more. Su Jinnan was sent to the hospital. And at the ward's entrance, my mother specifically arranged for someone to keep watch. At night, the light in my mother's room remained on. Unable to rest easy, I walked to my mother's room door and saw her inside, gathering all the photos she had with my father. First, she looked at them reminiscing about the past, then tore them to pieces fiercely. Indeed, I only saw my father's faults but failed to see everything he and my mother had been through together. Noticing my arrival, my mother waved at me. I walked over and nestled into my mother's embrace. My mother's voice came from above. "When I wanted to marry your father, your grandparents disagreed, saying he came from a poor background and lacked personal capability. I was bewitched by his sweet words and was determined to marry him. Now that things have come to this, it seems I truly made the wrong choice." 25. Mom, everyone makes wrong choices in life. What matters is realizing your mistakes in time. Besides, I raised my head and looked at her. Besides, if you hadn't been with Dad, maybe you wouldn't have such a smart and lovely daughter like me. My joking tone successfully brought a smile to my mom's face. She looked at me and asked seriously, "Hanin, if your dad and I get divorced, would you be okay with that?" "Yes." "Would you choose to be with me?" "I would." This time, I answered without hesitation. Perhaps my answer gave my mother strength, as confidence returned to her face. "After your college celebration banquet ends tomorrow, I'll bring up divorce with him." "Okay." I hugged my mom and slept with her. I only got up after her breathing became steady, found one of my father's short hairs on the pillow and took it out of the bedroom. Early the next morning, I made an excuse to go out first and went to the hospital to collect Su Ro's hair. Then submitted hair samples from Su Ro and my father, as well as Su Ro and the meal delivery aunt for paternity testing. After returning home, my mother and I set off for the hotel together. As noon approached, the guests arrived one after another. My father was supposed to be recuperating in the hospital, yet he insisted on getting up to attend my college celebration banquet. I was initially worried he might cause a scene at the banquet, but my mother reassured me that he's too vain for that, which eased my mind. Just as my mother predicted, my father, who usually couldn't be bothered to glance at me, was now grinning so widely that even the bandages on his face couldn't hide his smile. "Old Su, your daughter is really making you proud. Of course, she takes after me." Someone looked at his pitiful state and asked with concern, "What happened to you? How did you get so badly injured?" Those shadows darkened his deep eyes. My dad's smile remained bright. "Ha. Just celebrating too hard after my daughter got into Tsinghua, had one too many drinks and ended up like this." 26. Hearing this, my mother and I exchanged glances, barely able to suppress our laughter. I have to admit, he's quite good at making excuses for himself. This talent for blatantly lying really comes in handy. Guests came in wave after wave, until finally, under my mother's eager anticipation, my grandparents arrived. Back then, my grandparents were angry because my mother stubbornly married my father. Over the years, although they secretly helped my mother's career, there was almost no visible interaction. Every time my mother went to visit them, they would put on stern faces. Only when facing me would the two elders show happiness. But deep down I knew they were just using me as an excuse to care for my mom. Their affection for me was simply an extension of their love for her. "Mom, Dad, you're finally here," my mother said with visible relief. My grandparents replied with proud expressions. "We wouldn't have come if we weren't worried Hanin's graduation banquet might feel incomplete without us." Of course, let me show you inside." My mother went to help my maternal grandparents. All my classmates came, the Zhang family came, and Su Ro's whole family came too. As noon approached, almost all the guests had arrived, but I still couldn't see Qingzhou anywhere. Only then did I realize I might have been a bit rash. I don't know about Qingzhou's academic performance, nor which university he got into, so inviting him over like this seems rather rash. As I was thinking this, a familiar voice suddenly came from above. "Where should I sit?" I looked up and met Qin Zhou's beautiful eyes. I'll take you there. As I spoke, a smile involuntarily bloomed on my face. 27. I took Qin Zhou to the table where my high school classmates were sitting. Upon seeing Qin Zhou, the girls who had been chatting freely immediately blushed and fell silent. Hanin, you're amazing. You even managed to invite the school heartthrob who never gets close to anyone. Hearing this, I just smiled without saying anything. The Su group is sizable, and most of the attendees at my college celebration banquet were business partners. I followed my parents to toast the guests. When it came to the table where the Zhang family was seated, someone raised a question. Why are our in-laws sitting with us? My mother smiled and explained, here's the thing, Hanin and Chuyang's engagement has been called off. Their betrothal was just a casual remark made years ago, never meant to be taken seriously. Everyone present was sharp-witted, so no one pressed further. Instead, it was Zhang's parents who became displeased. However, they restrained themselves and didn't voice their stance. My mother wanted to spare the Zhang family some dignity, but I didn't. Wanting to end things gracefully after doing something disgraceful. Since when does the world offer such nice deals? I looked at Su Ro, who was clutching her stomach with a conflicted expression, as if struggling over whether to expose right then that she was pregnant with Zhang Chuyang's child. So, I simply walked toward Zhang Chuyang, who wasn't far from her. Halfway there, suddenly, my foot twisted, and I fell straight forward, and directly in front of me was Su Ro. Just as I was about to crash into Su Ro, a sudden force pulled at my waist. It was Qin Zhou. He had caught me by the waist. Thank you, I said to him as I straightened up in Qin Zhou's arms. The terrified Su Ro exploded, clutching her stomach as she stood up from the chair. She pointed at me and accused, Sui-han, you did this on purpose. You can't stand that I'm carrying Chu Yang's child and tried to make me lose the baby. 28. Su Ro's words caused an uproar in the room. The crowd instantly understood the reason I broke off my engagement with Zhang Chuyang was because he had an affair with my cousin, and they even had a child together. Everyone present cared about their reputation, and many looked at the Zhang family with undisguised contempt. The Zhang parents valued face most of all. Mrs. Zhang immediately denied. Su Ro, how dare you spout such nonsense? Our Chuyang isn't someone you can just seduce as you please, with things having come to this. Su Ro decided to abandon all restraint. Auntie, whether the child in my belly is Chuyang's or not, you know the truth. If you insist on denying it, we can always do a paternity test after the baby is born. You shameless slut, I'll tear your mouth apart. Just as the Zhang family and Su Daqiang's family were about to start fighting again, my mom directly had security kick both families out. The scene became quiet once more. The crowd's gazes toward me held more sympathy. Of course, my dad was the exception among these people. His face turned livid, with a look in his eyes as if he wanted to devour me. As soon as we got home after the college celebration banquet, my dad exploded. How could you two be so vicious? Ruru is already pitiful enough, pregnant with Zhang Chuyang's child yet not accepted by the Zhang family. Must you drive her to death? But doesn't she deserve this punishment? Sui-han, don't think I don't dare to teach you a lesson. My father strode toward me. The security guards blocked my path, surrounding me tightly. If you don't want to end up hospitalized again, go ahead and try something. 29. I knew you were no good. Enough. My mother couldn't take it anymore and interrupted my father. Sujanan, let's get a divorce. Divorce, Jing Yunru, are you joking? My father's tone was full of shock and disdain. Clearly, in his mind, no matter how he treated my mother and me, she would never divorce him. Yes, divorce, my mother declared resolutely. After taking a moment to process this, my father sneered. Fine, let's divorce then. We'll split the assets 50-50. Why should we split it equally with you? What have you contributed to this family besides eating, drinking, and having fun? I protested, but my mother said, all right. I'll have the lawyer draft the agreement later, then it's settled. After my father went upstairs, my mother looked at me and reassured me, Hannah, since we've decided to divorce, the most important thing is to cut the knot quickly. Money can be earned again, and after all, he is your father, giving him some money isn't a big deal. My mother made a fair point, so I kept quiet for the time being. Seeing that my mother was fine, I told her I was going out to meet a friend. Actually went to the hospital. I hope my guess is wrong, so that to prevent my mother from being too upset, I can let Sujanan get a little inheritance. At the hospital, I successfully obtained the test results. When I opened the test report and saw the results, I was so angry I could barely breathe. I guessed right. Su Ro is truly the child of Su Jinnan and that meal delivery auntie, 30. I immediately took the test results back to show my mom, who was originally grieving over their decades-long marriage, became completely consumed by rage upon discovering that the child my father had through his affair was 3 years older than me. Truly my mother, even when angry, she didn't let rage consume her reason. She called my grandparents and told them about the situation. My grandparents came with my 3 uncles. My father, who was taking a nap, was dragged off the bed and beaten severely by my 3 uncles, already injured. He was beaten to within an inch of his life. Then my eldest uncle placed a divorce agreement in front of him, demanding he sign it. When my father saw it required him to leave with nothing, he absolutely refused to sign. My uncle sneered, Su Jinnan, think carefully, if you don't sign, I'll report you for bigamy tomorrow and have you thrown in jail. Not only that, but from now on, I'll beat up every other member of the Su family I see. None of you will ever have a chance to succeed in this lifetime. Realizing that Su Ro's secret had been exposed, my father signed the document with a look of utter defeat. At that moment, my parents' divorce was finalized. From now on, he's no longer my father. Su Jinnan was thrown out of the villa like trash. I'm so angry. If it weren't for considering Henin, I would have made sure he went to jail. The uncles were furious. My mother had no time to grieve, turning instead to comfort my grandparents and uncles. In the end, my grandparents and uncles, out of concern for my mother and me, insisted on taking us in to stay for a while. At my grandparents' house, I felt a warmth I had never experienced before, so warm that I never wanted to go back. My mom also thought the villa was unlucky, so she sold it below market price. There was still over a month before Tsinghua semester started. My mom asked me, "What are your plans next, Mom?" I want to do an internship at a company. After dealing with the trash, making money is what really matters. I need to learn how to manage the company early, so I can inherit the family business. After hearing my answer, my mother smiled and said, "Perfect, that's exactly what I had in mind." 31. My mother took me to buy several sets of professional attire. I put on the professional attire and tied up my long hair. The reflection in the mirror shows a bold and confident me, no longer the coward of my past life. The next day, I went to the company with my mom. I witnessed firsthand as my mom instructed HR to fire all the people Su Jinnan had previously planted in the company. Soon, my mom's phone in the CEO's office was ringing off the hook. "Sister-in-law, we're family after all. That bastard Su Jinnan's actions have nothing to do with me." "Elder sister, I've already cut ties with Su Jinnan. Jobs are hard to come by these days. Could you please not fire me for the sake of our past relationship, when interests are at stake?" The brotherhood Su Jinnan took such pride in proved utterly fragile. My mom, not wanting to waste time, simply blocked all these people outright. My mother handed me over to a senior at the company, and I had a lot to learn every day. Amidst this busyness, the affairs of the Zhang family and Su Daqiang's family also reached my ears without fail. It's not that I wanted to hear, but the Zhang family's scandals were simply too numerous recently, becoming common knowledge in the circle. After Su Ro publicly announced at my college celebration banquet that she was pregnant with Zhang Chuyang's child, Zhang's parents, feeling utterly humiliated, ordered Zhang Chuyang to cut off all contact with Su Ro. Whether it was Zhang Chuyang's deep affection or Su Ro's manipulative skills, he actually continued his affair with her behind his parents' backs. When Zhang's mother accidentally discovered this, she was so furious that she was hospitalized. At Zhang Corporation, several major cooperative projects fell through due to their disgraceful behavior, resulting in heavy losses. Watching the company's stock price plummet day after day, Zhang's father was overwhelmed with anxiety. That's not all. It turned out Su Ro didn't know she was an illegitimate child who couldn't be exposed to the light. After learning that the meal-delivering aunt was her mother, she furiously scolded Su Jinnan and her biological mother for being shameless. In a fit of anger, she directly lost the baby in her womb. 32. Without her child, Su Ro lost any chance to marry into the Zhang family. Her status in the Su family plummeted. She stopped being arrogant and began to coax Su Jinnan again. After all, Su Jinnan had money in his hands, back then. The reason Su Jinnan signed the divorce papers with my mother so readily was twofold. First, he feared going to prison and was intimidated by my uncles. Second, he had a substantial amount of secret savings, but someone accustomed to a life of luxury could hardly endure watching his savings dwindle day by day. Lured by Su Laosan, Su Jinnan became addicted to gambling. Within just a month, he lost millions, wiping out his entire fortune. 2. I heard from our former villa neighbors that a disheveled Sujanon came looking for me and my mother at the villa. Unfortunately, the villa had long changed owners, and he couldn't find us. 33. Hearing people discuss those individuals' miserable circumstances again, I realized my heart remained largely unmoved. We've long belonged to different worlds. Regardless of whether their future brings fortune or misfortune, I'll keep striving to become better. On the day Tsinghua University started, Zhang Chuyang stopped me at the school gate. Henin, I've completely cut ties with Su Ro. We grew up together since childhood. Childhood sweethearts, can you forgive me just this once? The ridiculous thing was, I actually saw a trace of genuine affection in Zhang Chuyang's eyes. Some people are like this, they don't cherish what comes easily, yet crave what they can't have. Sorry, I won't forgive you. Looking at Zhang Chuyang for even a second feels like a waste of my life. I walked straight past Zhang Chuyang and entered the school grounds. A familiar figure came into view. It's Qin Zhou. He's also holding an admission notice in his hand, as if waiting for me. Seeing me, he approaches and extends an invitation. Want to go register together? Okay. I nodded and walked side by side with Qin Zhou. Let bygones be bygones, and fear not the future. I will eventually become the person I want to be. Story 2. The strategy failed, so I just let it all go. I tied him up, had tender and affectionate moments with him every day, and even gave birth to a son for him. Finally, I died a tragic death in front of him. I enjoyed 5 years of carefree time happily, but then the mission suddenly restarted. As soon as I was reborn, I was grabbed by the neck viciously. The man's usually well-behaved face now had blood-red eyes. Another one who doesn't care about her life, who gave you the guts to imitate Ran Ran. Not far away, a little figure who resembled him walked out slowly, with a shiny pistol pointed at my forehead. Anyone who imitates my mother must die. 1. I was eating potato chips when the system forcefully sent me back to the world of the novel. If you don't go back, those two father-son will almost turn that world upside down. I had been away from that world for 5 years. At that time, my body in the original world had a terminal illness, and only by completing the strategy mission could I get the reward of being cured. But no matter how hard I tried, I could never win over Lin Qingling. He was like a flower on a lofty mountain that was extremely difficult to pick. In a fit of anger, I just let it all go. I tied up my strategy target who looked down on me, drugged him, had tender and affectionate moments with him every day, and gave birth to a lovely son for him. But Lin Qingling never had a good look for me from beginning to end. He always said I was disgusting. The disgust that emanated from him, from the inside out, deeply hurt me, extremely heartbroken. I took the initiative to ask the system to take me out of the world, so on the day my son turned 1 month old, like every time before, I lowered my head and kissed Lin Qingling's lips. He frowned and still didn't respond. From shallow to deep, it was my farewell kiss to Lin Qingling. I took the key and unlocked Lin Qingling's handcuffs. Under his surprised gaze, I smiled. I set you free, Lin Qingling. What trick are you going to play this time? Lin Qingling looked at me with eyes full of annoyance. He hated me so much. My heart ached for a moment. To say I wasn't sad would be a lie. Although I forcefully tied Lin Qingling home, after a year of living together day and night, with tender and affectionate moments every day, and my such dedication, even if there was no love, there should be some habit, right? No tricks. I just suddenly realized the fact that you won't like me. I twitched the corners of my mouth and looked at Lin Qingling's back as he couldn't wait to leave. Sorry, Lin Qingling, I just have one request. Take good care of our son. I watched him open the door of the room without hesitation. He didn't even look back. Without a trace of reluctance. Goodbye, Lin Qingling, I said softly. After that, under the system's prompt of about to leave the world, I turned around and rushed towards the balcony. Jumping off, what happened after that was a blank. I only knew that when I opened my eyes, I had already returned to my own world, thinking that I would die someday anyway. I simply enjoyed life. The 3-month deadline for death, because of my good attitude, was actually extended by me for 5 years. The doctor said it was a miracle. I didn't understand what the system meant. What did it mean that the father-son would turn the world upside down? In my impression, Lin Qingling had a steady personality, rarely smiled, and was even more successful in his studies, winning scholarships and national awards with ease. My son, if brought up by him, would surely grow up to be upright. That's what I thought, so I made up my mind to let the system take me out of the world. But before I could think too much, I was grabbed by the neck viciously by a hand with distinct knuckles. That well-behaved and handsome face that I hadn't seen for 5 years appeared in front of me again without any mental preparation. The man's eyes were blood red, filled with rolling hatred. Another one who doesn't care about her life, who gave you the guts to imitate Ran. I couldn't catch my breath for a while and desperately beat the hand that was choking my breath. I spoke out of breath, Lin Qingling, I am Qin Ran. The force on my neck loosened slightly. Lin Qingling was visibly astonished. The door of the room not far away was opened. A child who resembled him walked out slowly, with a cold face. He steadily pointed a shiny pistol at my forehead. His words were terrifying, not what a child could say. Anyone who imitates my mother must die, too. Judging from the appearance of this child, I recognized him almost immediately. This was my son. At that time, because Lin Qingling couldn't accept him, I didn't name him. I didn't expect him to have grown so tall now. Lin Qingling's hand completely let go at this moment. I slid down from the wall, continuously stroking my throat. Inhaling and coughing crazily. You're really trying to kill me, Lin Qingling. It's been 5 years. Why do you still hate me so much? He obviously hadn't reacted yet and just looked at me warily. The big one and the small one each occupied one side at this moment, and even their defensive expressions were exactly the same. Although I was coughing with tears in my eyes, I still beckoned to my son with full of collagen face. I haven't seen you for 5 years. Come here quickly, son, and let mom give you a hug. He held the pistol, moved forward 2 steps like a little adult, and then quickly stopped. The child said coldly, Dad said that mom died not long after I was born. There's only one mom. All you women, just because you look like my mom, you want to be my mom. It's a pipe dream. I'm going to kill all you bad women. I shivered because of his words. Subconsciously, I looked up and frowned at Lin Qingling, who was standing aside and silent. I asked you to take good care of our son, and this is how you teach him, Lin Qingling. You actually taught him to kill. Are you crazy? You can hate me, but you can't hate our son. Lin Qingling still just looked at me. The bloodshot eyes in his eyes were fully stretched, looking very terrifying. He moved his lips. His lowered head actually looked a bit pitiful. I clicked my tongue. I tried to stand up straight and reach for my son's hand, but was stopped by Lin Qingling. He grabbed my wrist, his lips trembling. That look seemed to have passed through thousands of years and landed on me. He used too much force, and I felt a bit of pain and wanted to withdraw my hand. Qin Ran. I paused. That voice was low and hoarse, as if with a faint plea. After a long while, I finally heard him speak. It seemed to be choked with sobs, and he asked uncertainly, Is it really you who came back? Don't lie to me anymore, please. 3. Logically speaking, Lin Qingling didn't like me. Even if I died in front of him, he wouldn't be the least bit moved. But now, looking at the handcuffs on my wrists and ankles, although the insides of the handcuffs were wrapped with sponge to avoid hurting me, I still fell into deep thought. Could it be that Lin Qingling's personality has become abnormal after being tied up by me? The door made a click sound. Lin Qingling walked in with a plate. He was still as handsome as ever. One could even say that he was more charming than before. With a height of 1.88 meters, he had a typical muscular body when taking off his clothes but looked slender when wearing them. Coupled with that abstinent and perfect face, even I, who had seen many models, still couldn't help but be infatuated. The steaming mist rose along the edge of the bowl. It was my favorite fish, filet congee. He scooped a spoonful, blew on it, and brought it to my lips. His movements were gentle, as if we were really a couple who had been in love for many years and had a son. If we ignored the fact that I was wearing overly heavy shackles at the moment and it was difficult for me to even raise my hand, eating a bowl of congee was extremely tiring. I took a breath. Lin Qingling, are you taking revenge on me? Revenge? Lin Qingling seemed to not understand my words at all. He slowly wiped the remaining liquid on my lips with his fingertips. He deliberately made the movement very slow, making my senses infinitely magnified. I watched him lower his head, his handsome face approaching me. A burning kiss landed on the center of my lips. This was the first time he took the initiative to kiss me. It was not a shallow kiss but deepened infinitely until I was out of breath. There were red marks at the corners of his eyes. Suddenly, he pushed me down on the head of the bed and used his knee to push open my legs. If you're an imposter, I'll kill you. Lin Qingling's voice was as cold as if he had just come out of an ice cellar. I felt my clothes being peeled off. I finally couldn't help it and struggled to shout, Lin Qingling, how could you become like this? I became like this. A sneering laugh. His slender and cold fingers stroked my face. He took out a gift ribbon and wrapped it around my forearm circle by circle, until I couldn't move at all. I could only let him do as he pleased. My terrified reflection was in Lin Qingling's amber pupils. Ran, didn't you turn me into this? So, why did you leave me in Siren? For, I was tossed and tormented by Lin Qingling all night long. He even personally served me to take a bath, but as we were washing, things started to go wrong again. In the second half of the night, he wrapped me in his arms. Despite his tall and big figure, he was in a curled-up posture, an action that showed extreme lack of security, but I couldn't fall asleep no matter what. In the darkness, I traced Lin Qingling's handsome face with my eyes. 5 years seemed to have made him more mature. The remaining bit of immaturity in his eyebrows and eyes was covered by his always furrowed brows. I stretched out a finger and quietly smoothed the wrinkles between his brows. What on earth had happened in these 5 years? Don't leave. A murmur seemed to spill from Lin Qingling's lips. What? I didn't hear clearly and moved closer to him. Suddenly, I met a pair of deep eyes. Lin Qingling had woken up at some point, our breaths intertwined, very close. There were still ambiguous red marks on his neck left by me. I withdrew my hand awkwardly. The handcuffs collided, making a clear sound. It was particularly harsh in the quiet environment. What you said before, Siren. I tried to ignore his scorching gaze and change the subject. Is that our son? Did you name him? He didn't speak and just looked at me quietly. His look gave me goosebumps all over my back. There was inquiry and interrogation in his eyes. I suddenly remembered what Lin Qingling had said before. There were many people who pretended to be me and wanted to be my son's mother. I twitched the corners of my mouth and was about to explain to Lin Qingling half-jokingly that I faked my death with the help of the system, but I was stopped by his next words. His palm gently stroked my cheek. His fingertips were dry and warm, but there was countless mockery and coldness in his eyes. You're the one who imitates her the most vividly. From now on, you can stay here. 5. Imitate whom? Imitate Qin Ran. I imitate myself. I came to a conclusion from his words. Over the years, Lin Qingling had found many women who resembled me. Looking at his naked and muscular upper body, I suddenly felt disgusted. Although I used extreme methods on Lin Qingling before, I had only ever had him. I had him in my heart all the time, even though he didn't have a good look for me. I never thought of fooling around with other men behind his back. Now this body had probably had affairs with countless women. I suddenly struggled violently. Lin Qingling's pupils trembled because of my actions, and he used force to hold down my hands. What are you doing? He furrowed his brows again. I stared at him viciously, trying to see some emotional fluctuations in Lin Qingling's eyes, but his eyes were still the same as 5 years ago, making it impossible to figure out his mood at this moment. Lin Qingling, you're so dirty. I gritted my teeth. I thought he would react, but he just held my hand, pulled my body, which had crawled a little further away, back a bit, and fixed me back in his arms. I heard him Lin Qingling was very restless when sleeping. He was like an octopus that couldn't breathe without holding me, tightly wrapped around me, scaring me awake several times in the middle of the night. In my impression, Lin Qingling was always well behaved, whether in life or when sleeping. Before, we also slept in the same bed and covered with the same quilt, but there was always a very obvious dividing line between him and me, unless I drugged him. Otherwise, he would never take the initiative to cross that line. As if we were two completely unrelated people. What Lin Qingling was like before going to bed, he would still be like that when waking up. When I opened my eyes, I still felt extremely angry. 5 years ago, he felt extremely humiliated even if he touched me once. 5 years later, he had slept with countless women and still held those women tightly in his arms when sleeping. This made me, who was crazy about winning him over at that time, look extremely stupid. System, I want to go home. Why did you bring me back unaccountably? I was furiously angry with no way to vent. Out of sight, out of mind. If this continued, I might be the one who turned dark. The mechanical voice of the system floated faintly. Are you sure? Host, Lin Qingling has become like this because you didn't follow the strategy rules, used abnormal strategy methods, and even died in front of him without permission, causing a great change in his temperament. The Lord God is very angry about this. This is your only chance to atone for your sins now. As long as you lead Lin Qingling and his son back to the right path, your body in the original world can survive, and the Lord God will give you a large sum of wealth. Otherwise, your body in the original world will die immediately. 6. Well, now I have to continue. the system kindly reminded, host, actually it's very simple, Lin Qingling's son is also your son. After all, you have a blood relationship connected by the umbilical cord. You can start with the little guy first and influence him with love. Children are easy to coax, a little guy who carries a gun and always talks about killing, I said calmly. The system fell silent. Look, even the system thinks it's difficult. Why do they have to make things difficult for an ordinary and poor person like me? In a daze, I fell asleep again. In my sleep, it seemed that something soft touched my face. I mumbled, so annoying, and waved away that strange feeling. Sure enough, that feeling disappeared. It landed on my ear and chest again. When I woke up, Lin Qingling was no longer in the room. I probed, and there was no warmth on the other side of the bed. He had been gone for a long time. Lin Qingling didn't untie the restraints on my hands and feet. I lowered my eyes and measured. The length of the chain could barely allow me to reach the bathroom. But it was obvious that Lin Qingling didn't intend to let me out of the room. I looked around. The walls were all white, and even the decorative wall cabinets were in cold colors, giving no sign of human warmth. It was very much in line with Lin Qingling's consistent cold preferences. I planned to get out of bed and wash up first. However, as soon as my feet touched the ground, my legs went weak and I knelt down. Fortunately, there was carpet laid beside the bed, so I didn't hurt my knees when I landed on the floor. This Lin Qingling. Did he secretly drug me? I cursed while rubbing my waist, trying to stand up again. When I raised my eyes, I met a pair of watery eyes. The little figure was hiding behind the door, and only those eyes that were very similar to mine were rolling around in the crack of the door. He seemed very curious about me. It was my lovely son. Baby, come in, I called out eagerly. The child curled up his body, and those big eyes disappeared all of a sudden. He must have run away, I sighed in disappointment. The next second, the door creaked open. The little guy, who was not even as tall as my waist, walked in cautiously. His delicate and pretty face was full of vigilance, and there was also a contradiction of wanting to get close to me. I instinctively looked at his hands. Seeing that he wasn't holding anything, I felt relieved and beckoned to him again. Son, let mom give you a kiss, although I was yelling at the system last night that I wanted to go home. But it was only when I truly came into face-to-face contact with my son that I realized how hard it was to cut off the blood relationship. Seeing this little dumpling who was tentatively approaching me, I just wanted to spoil him as a domineering mother. When the distance between us shortened to a certain extent, I was quick-eyed and quick-handed. I suddenly pulled my son into my arms and rubbed his chubby cheeks. I smelled the pleasant scent on him. It seemed that apart from not teaching him well, Lin Qingling had taken good care of his daily life. His little arms were plump, and his skin was a healthy color. At this moment, he was wearing a small suit with a tie, and the leather shoes were obviously custom-made and expensive. Are you going to a party, baby? I glanced at my son's hair styled with hairspray. At first, my son was still struggling in my arms. When he heard my voice, he suddenly became quiet and stopped moving. Can you take mom with you? I coaxed him. Talk to your dad about it. Mom hasn't seen you for a long time and wants to be with you all the time. Surely Lin Qingling couldn't keep me locked in the room forever. My son nestled in my chest, and his chubby hands hugged my neck. My heart melted into a puddle of water because of his action. However, Lin Qingling's son was just like Lin Qingling. Even though he was only 5 years old, he still inherited his father's coldness and seriousness. His little face was tense, and his tone was stiff. No, you'll run away, you'll leave me and dad behind, you can't be let out. Besides, there are many pretty aunts at the party. After saying that, the little guy let go of his hands. He slipped out of my arms in a flash and ran away. I was left alone, feeling disoriented in front of the door that was quickly closed. 7. My son's words kept repeating in my mind. There are many pretty aunts at the party. There are many pretty aunts, fine. Lin Qingling locked me up and then went to enjoy his life in the company of other women. 3 meals a day were delivered to me on time. The breakfast was my favorite fish fillet congee, the lunch had my favorite braised beef brisket and curry, and the dinner included my favorite snacks. It was as if the menu was tailor-made for me. The person who delivered the food was probably a nanny. She was of a certain age and very tight-lipped. No matter what I said, she wouldn't reply. She just put the food in front of me. I won't eat it. I asked her to take it away. She said expressionlessly, if you don't eat, Mr. Lin will punish me. She showed me the scars on her arm on purpose or not. I widened my eyes. I tried to find signs of lying on the nanny's face. Unfortunately, Everyone in the Lin family seemed to be cut from the same mold. And it was impossible to tell what they were thinking from their faces. After the nanny left, I clenched my fists and punched the bed as if to vent my anger. You're really something, Lin Qingling. Not only are you abnormal towards me, but you also play the game of abuse. You're simply not human. System, I don't want to live anymore. I want to go back, I shouted. The system appeared helplessly. Host, don't be willful, I frowned. And my eyes were sour. Look at these father and son. One is looking for substitutes everywhere and locking me up, and the other doesn't recognize me and wants to find other pretty moms. And did you see the scars on the nanny's hands? There's a good chance that I'll be the next one to be beaten. I can't go on with this life. I couldn't win over Lin Qingling 5 years ago, and I still can't do it 5 years later. I started to give up again. I want to go on strike and slack off. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't want to humiliate myself. Host, I want to go back, even if it means letting me die. As soon as I finished speaking, the door was suddenly opened eagerly. The sound was so loud that I turned around at once. Before I could regain my senses, I was suddenly pulled into someone's arms. The fresh fragrance of gardenias lingered in my nose. It was the perfume I loved to spray the most 5 years ago. My nose hit the hard chest of the person in front of me. And he tightened his arms with such great force that it seemed he wanted to integrate me into his bones. His voice was trembling, and even the body that was holding me was shaking. Don't leave, I beg you not to leave. I was wrong. I can give you whatever you want. I just beg you not to leave me again, please. Tears seeped down my collar, wetting my neck and slowly sliding down through my clothes. Everywhere they touched seemed to be burned. I was hugged so tightly that I couldn't breathe. I gasped for breath and called Lin Qingling's name, but he still didn't want to let go. It was only when I hugged him back and gently patted his back that he seemed to be released from a great burden. He gasped and fell to the ground with me in his arms. I could hear his painful moans in my ears. Only then did I smell that besides the fragrance of gardenias, there was also a strong smell of alcohol on Lin Qingling. Was he drunk? 8. After much persuasion, I managed to coax Lin Qingling onto the bed. His eyes were tightly closed, and the beautiful corners of his eyes were stained with a coquettish red. He was wearing the same black suit as my son. It seemed that he had taken off his tie on the way. The collar of his shirt was wide open, and the exposed skin was also tinged with a pinkish hue. The seductive scene in front of me made me swallow my saliva involuntarily. I went to the bathroom to get a towel to wipe his face. When the towel reached the back of his ear, he grabbed my wrist with his backhand. He opened his eyes. The whites of his eyes were scarlet, and there were faint dark circles under his eyes. It seemed that he hadn't had a good rest for a long time. Since you're awake, go take a shower by yourself. I knew I couldn't break free from his grip, so I didn't waste my energy. Instead, I directly looked into those clear eyes. Ran, whether it was 5 years ago or 5 years later. This was the first time Lin Qingling called me so seriously and affectionately in front of me. I was taken aback. I had prepared a lot of words to defend myself for a whole day, but because of these 2 words, I didn't say a single one. Seeing that I didn't speak, he called me again. His eyes were shining brightly. I coughed and replied awkwardly, "Why, there were so many pretty girls at the party, didn't you have a good time?" "I didn't talk to them," he pouted. Looking just like an enlarged version of my son. What should I do? Drunk Lin Qingling seemed a bit too cute. I bent down, carefully observed his expression, and continued to fish for information. "Then why didn't you take Ran with you?" As soon as I said this, the air became visibly silent. Lin Qingling seemed to be thinking. His brows were furrowed tightly, and even his facial features were twisted. I quickly reached out to smooth his brows. I didn't know why, but I really didn't want to see Lin Qingling in such a tangled state. I did something wrong and made Ran angry, so Ran left and won't come back again. I'll never be able to see her again. He lowered his eyes and fell asleep again. I heard Lin Qingling's even breathing. After a moment of silence, I still finished wiping his face, took off his coat, and covered him with a quilt. Then I leaned against the head of the bed. I stared blankly at the blank ceiling. 9. Lin Qingling was overly self-disciplined. No matter what he did the previous night or how late he stayed up, he would always wake up before me. I gradually got used to the 3 meals a day. I gradually accepted his caresses, and that little guy who came to visit me every day. To make it easier for me to interact with my son, Lin Qingling, out of mercy, untied the handcuffs on my feet. One day, my son came to me shyly and, for the first time, said to me, "I want to go to the amusement park." This was the first time he showed a childlike expression in front of me. It seemed that Lin Qingling had never taken him there. I also really wanted to make up for the childhood that my son had missed, but I raised the handcuffs on my wrist. But Mom can't go. My son's eyes dimmed for a moment. He drooped his shoulders and left the room. Because of this, I hated Lin Qingling deeply. What a great opportunity to cultivate my relationship with my son. About 20 minutes later, the little guy appeared again. He furtively handed me a key. I took it suspiciously and tentatively inserted it into the keyhole. It actually opened. The sudden freedom made me feel a moment of confusion. My first reaction was to kiss my son's face hard. He smelled so good. My son smelled so good. The little guy might have gotten used to my kisses. He didn't struggle and let me kiss him to my heart's content. Then he blushed and whispered, "Can we go to the amusement park now?" "Of course we can." I picked up my son and carried him out of the door that had been closed for many days. Only then did I realize that the place where Lin Qingling had locked me up was a duplex villa, and the room where I was locked was on the second floor. The decoration outside the room was exactly as I had imagined. It was still in the same cold tones, and only the sofa was an unexpectedly bright yellow. In front of it was a 120-inch TV. Lin Qingling didn't like watching TV, after all. Before me, Lin Qingling had had many women. I thought sourly that maybe it had been bought for other women before. I didn't want to look at it anymore. I turned around and asked my son, "Have you seen Mom's clothes?" These days, I had been wearing different styles of pajamas, or sometimes I secretly wore Lin Qingling's t-shirts. I couldn't go out to play in my pajamas. I had originally intended to ask where the clothes I had been wearing when I came to this world were. But my son took my hand and led me into a room at the end of the stairs. This room wasn't as bright as the other rooms outside. There wasn't even a light installed. Approaching this place was like walking into an invisible abyss. I hesitated and held my son back. "Good son, are you sure Mom's clothes are in here?" "Yeah." My son nodded affirmatively. "I saw Dad take your clothes and go in. My eyesight is 5.3. I won't be wrong." "That's not what I meant." The door was pushed open by my son with a palm. The sight that met my eyes was shocking. The whole room was covered with my photos of me smiling, crying, sleeping, and being angry. It was like the gathering place of a strange ceremony. The decoration and arrangement of the room were exactly the same as the room where I had locked Lin Qingling up 5 years ago. Even the little pig ornament in the corner of the desk had been replicated. On the bookshelf was a group photo of me and Lin Qingling when I had forced him before. His face was stiff, and he looked very impatient. I had a bright smile and snuggled up to him like a little bird, making a V gesture. That was the only group photo of the two of us. It was a pity that later I died, and I couldn't take the photo with me. I had a hunch that in the wardrobe were all the clothes I had worn 5 years ago. My feet moved forward uncontrollably. My hand was about to touch the handle of the wardrobe. Suddenly, Lin Qingling's cold voice came from behind me, like the call of the god of death from hell. "What are you two doing?" 10. I was startled. I squatted down. I picked up my son who was standing beside me and held him in front of me as a shield. "It was all my son who brought me here. It has nothing to do with me. Don't kill me to silence me." My son, Lin Qingling, walked towards me with the steps of the god of death. Each step seemed to be crushing the tip of my heart. I bit my lower lip tightly. My son's voice of pain came up from below. "You're hugging me too tightly." I quickly covered his mouth and whispered in his ear, "You're his son. He won't do anything to you. I'm just a dispensable woman. He can kill me if he wants to. I gave birth to you after 10 months of pregnancy. Even if I have no credit, I have hard work. You can't be so heartless, little thing." Lin Qingling bent down. His perfect face approached mine. I held my breath. I regretted it deeply. Why hadn't the first thing I did after the handcuffs were untied been to escape from the villa? Now, I had touched Lin Qingling's sore spot. With his character, I didn't know what he would do to me. However, the next second, I saw his hand bypass me and open the wardrobe that I had wanted to open. I turned my head. As I had expected, they were all my former clothes. There was also a beautiful goose yellow evening dress, which I had originally planned to wear to a dinner party with Lin Qingling 5 years ago. But later, there was no later. I let Lin Qingling go and even jumped off the building in front of him. "Lin Qingling, you must hate me, right?" I let out a deep sigh and, mustering up my courage, raised my head to look directly at Lin Qingling not far from me. Hearing this, Lin Qingling looked at me. "I pestered you, and when you ignored me, I tied you up and drugged you. I even gave birth to a son for you against your will. You must hate me, right?" Any one of these charges alone was enough to sentence me to death, but everyone has their youth. At that time, I truly liked Lin Qingling. With a bit of annoyance and anger mixed in, he moved his lips. I gave a self-deprecating smile. Maybe I can't live for long, and that's probably my retribution. I'm sorry for making you suffer. You hate me. You finally got rid of me, and after 5 years. You have to see me every day again. Let me go, Lin Qingling. Don't worry. Anyway, I'll disappear completely soon, and you won't have to be bothered by me all the time. You're leaving again. This angry roar startled both me and my son at the same time. Lin Qingling's face looked very grim, hidden storms and anger seemed to surround him, and he looked as if he was about to go crazy. Seeing this, my son quickly broke free from me and grabbed Lin Qingling's arm. Dad, Mom won't leave. I'll stop Mom. My son was like an ant on a hot pan, so anxious that sweat poured down his face. When he saw that Lin Qingling didn't do anything further, he quickly ran over and grabbed the hem of my clothes. Mom, tell Dad quickly that you won't leave. Mom, why do you always want to leave me? And Dad, don't you love us at all? He looked as if he was about to cry. His nasal voice was humming, making people feel sorry for him. I couldn't spare the thought to be happy that my son finally called me Mom because Lin Qingling didn't look well at this moment. He was breathing wildly. Tears were falling from his eyes like water from a faucet with the tap broken. Unable to be stopped, Qin ran. Do you know how many women who looked like you appeared in front of me before you came? Each of them said that she was Ran. The ridiculous thing is that I really thought it was you who had come back, but I thought, since you were even willing to die in front of me, how could you possibly come back? His tears soaked his shirt, and a few drops fell on his coat, outlining faint water halos, which were incredibly beautiful. You don't know, and you don't want to know. My son wiped Lin Qingling's tears with his sleeve, but soon, his own tears couldn't be stopped either. My classmates always say that I don't have a mom, but over the years, a bunch of people have been competing to be my mom. I asked Dad why, and Dad said that none of them were Ran, and none of them were Mom. My mom is already dead. I didn't believe it. I always firmly believed that Mom would come back, so I want to kill those women because they are blocking my mom from coming back. I admit that I was shocked by what the father and son said. It was also at this moment that I discovered the mystery. I almost never appeared in public with Lin Qingling. And Lin Qingling had never publicly expressed that he liked me. How could there be a bunch of women who looked like me appearing in front of Lin Qingling? Was it the system? Host, speak of the devil and he appears. System, what on earth is going on? I didn't taboo that the father and son were still there. A potential guess made me feel unprecedented anger. If that was really the case, then I, Lin Qingling, and even my son were all beings controlled and toyed with by the system. After you died, Lin Qingling's Melanism value has always been at the critical point. The Lord God was afraid that the world would collapse, and couldn't send you back either, so he created some women who looked similar to you or even exactly the same as you. He even gave those women the memories between you and Lin Qingling. Logically speaking, there was no mistake, but we don't know how Lin Qingling managed to do it. He could always find out at the first moment that those women weren't you. As time went by, he became hostile towards every woman, even Lin Siren, that is, your son, the host, also became melanistic. We really had no other choice but to find you, the host, and forcefully send you back. The world can't collapse. Host, you guys are going too far, using my appearance and my memories to deceive Lin Qingling and deceive my own flesh and blood. Lin Qingling, this time it's really me. I'm Qin Ran, not those strange women. I threw myself in front of Lin Qingling and protected him. This time, it was me who enclosed him in that small corner. After being deceived for so long, it was impossible not to be defensive towards others. I seriously held Lin Qingling's face in my hands and looked into his red eyes. Lin Qingling, believe me, I don't not love you and our son, I just really want to live. After saying that, I fell silent. Human nature is selfish. I want to live so much. I still have a lot of things to do in the real world, and I don't want to die. If at the beginning I approached Lin Qingling with the purpose of the strategy, later on, I really fell in love with Lin Qingling. I couldn't stand the fact that I was approaching him with a purpose for the strategy. I also couldn't stand being hated by the person I liked countless times. That's why I chose to give up and leave the world, and this time I came back, although it was forced. And although it was also for the sake of being able to live, but I couldn't say that I had no feelings at all for Lin Qingling and my son. The unprovoked jealousy and the genuine love for my son from the bottom of my heart proved at every moment I can't forget Lin Qingling. I love the little flesh that came from my body. I carefully leaned forward and kissed Lin Qingling's lips, just a gentle peck. Lin Qingling, believe me. I repeated it eagerly. I was afraid that he would regard me as one of those women who deceived him. I was afraid that I would also become one of those women, but Lin Qingling said, I know. I blinked. I saw the curve of his lips. He smiled and kissed me back. Suddenly, I quickly covered my son's eyes. I heard Lin Qingling's voice, like the clear sky after the rain and the gentle breeze caressing my face. He said, I know, the first moment I saw you, I knew. My Ran is back. Thank you for coming back. Epilogue 1. Lin Qingling no longer locked me up. The thing he liked to do the most was to sit on the sofa, let me half lie in his arms, and watch TV with me. But the current TV programs are really boring. Lin Qingling looked particularly aggrieved. Ran, you used to like this the most. Then I remembered. At that time, I was always eager to do some things that couples do with Lin Qingling. Watching movies was the first on the list. But I couldn't take Lin Qingling, who was wearing handcuffs, out. So lying in Lin Qingling's arms and watching TV became my most enjoyable date, although Lin Qingling always seemed very reluctant every time. But now, our positions were reversed. In order to prevent Lin Qingling from crying uncontrollably again, I could only follow his wishes. I sighed and lay back on his knees. I let him stroke my hair from time to time. I mumbled and half-jokingly asked him, did you realize that you loved me so much only after I died? Hearing this, Lin Qingling paused. I thought to myself that the novel was right after all. The living can't compete with the dead, but I didn't expect Lin Qingling to softly deny it. No, I liked you a long time ago, before you liked me. How could that be possible? Then how could I have failed in this strategy? If he had liked me a long time ago, we would never have ended up in that situation later, and we couldn't have been separated for 5 years. But no matter how much I pressed him, Lin Qingling didn't tell me anymore. He adjusted my head and kissed the corner of my lips. If you don't want to watch TV, we can do something else. Something else. I thought of Lin Qingling's inhuman physical strength as if he had taken some medicine. I swallowed my saliva. I quickly sat up straight. I stammered and said, then let's still watch TV. But the next second, I was grabbed by Lin Qingling's hand and pushed down on the sofa. He fixed my wrists from below. He made me unable to move at all. I could only press my nose against his. Our breaths were scorching hot. I noticed the burning desire in his eyes. It's too late. In the middle of the night, I forced myself to stay awake. I quietly moved Lin Qingling's arm that was around my waist and got out of the quilt. I ran to the room at the end of the corridor. I always felt that this room held a lot of little secrets. Mom, a childish voice almost scared the wits out of me. I made a gesture for silence. Little Doubao, why haven't you gone to sleep yet? I saw Mom being sneaky. Mom, do you want me to accompany you? Looking at my son's sleepy face and his tentative question, my heart softened completely. I generously wrapped him in my bathrobe. Come on, son. So my son and I tiptoed together and rummaged through the room. After rummaging for about a quarter of an hour, my son asked me, Mom, what are you looking for? I didn't even look up. Your dad's secrets. My son said, oh. I thought he would continue to look obediently. But who would have thought that he casually pulled open a drawer at the bottom of the bookcase and handed me a thick stack of notebooks inside. I always saw Dad reading a notebook. Every time he finished reading, he would put it away carefully. I didn't dare to peek. Mom, you can read it for me. Wait a minute, this seems to be my notebook. Right, too, the notebook was very thick. It was some strategy experience I wrote for the later strategists when I was afraid that I couldn't return to the original world, but later, when I fell in love with Lin Qingling, I put the notebook away. The first page of the notebook was still in my handwriting. May 3rd, 2022. This is the 3rd day I've been in this world. It's really difficult to strategy Lin Qingling. He doesn't like to talk to people. He never pays attention to me when I talk to him. It will take forever to succeed in the strategy. June 20th, 2022. He finally agreed to watch a movie with me. I feel that his attitude towards me has softened a bit. Great, there is hope for the success of the strategy. I can go home soon. July 26th, 2022. Today is my birthday. I don't know why, but Lin Qingling's attitude towards me suddenly became cold. He is really difficult to strategy, but I really want to live. After that, there were some precautions I wrote. The strategy target likes to drink fish fillet congee, and I also like to drink fish fillet congee. we are a perfect match. The strategy target always comes and goes alone, he should be very lonely. The strategy target is always bullied at school, I must protect him. When I hold Lin Qingling's hand, his ears will turn red, he is actually quite easily shy. I kissed Lin Qingling's lips, and he didn't push me away. Lin Qingling is not very good at kissing. I flipped through the notebook further, until I saw a page with unfamiliar characters. The handwriting was vigorous and elegant. There were only 7 words on this page. Why did you let me see this? I held the notebook and walked out of the room. Outside the door, Lin Qingling was waiting for me. The little guy called out Dad and then slipped away like greased lightning. He didn't save his poor mother at all. I've noticed it several times already. As soon as I leave Lin Qingling's side, he will wake up not long after. Lin Qingling, did you find out that I was trying to strategy you a long time ago? I'm not stupid. I can probably guess the cause and effect of Lin Qingling's sudden coldness towards me. Lin Qingling nodded. He also didn't seem to want to hide it anymore. Your notebook fell downstairs in my dormitory, and my roommate opened it. I didn't believe it at first, but after you tied me up, several times when you were asleep and talking in your dreams, you cried and said that you wanted to go home and that you didn't want to fail in the strategy. The disgust that emanated from him, from the inside out, deeply hurt me. If you love me more, you can stay by my side forever. Sorry, Ran, I'm very selfish. He hung his head, looking like a child who had done something wrong. I felt mixed emotions in my heart. For a moment, neither of us said anything, until I took Lin Qingling's hand. His originally dim pupils visibly lit up. I leaned my head against his chest, hugged his waist, and felt the warm and passionate heartbeat in my ear. Hug me too, I said. He awkwardly hugged me back. I was a bit amused by his clumsiness. After a pause, I still said, now, we're even. Lin Qingling didn't understand, but he still firmly confessed his love to me. Ran, I really love you. If you really insist on leaving, I will also take good care of our son.